We're in the most extraordinary time of innovation contemporary to our time that we've ever known. Women and men, hearts and minds from around the world are innovating in such a fashion in which the likes we've never seen nor have imagined. The transmetropolitan, transcontinental, around the world and in between, there are those that are on the frontier commanding tools with democratized access in which we've never had available and afforded to us. Products and platforms and applications, protocols, and more are being built. At GatherVerse, we've always advocated at the intersection, if you will, of technology, be there humanity, with the considerations of accessibility and education, community development, equality and safety, privacy, wellness, ethics, trust, perhaps a dash of care and compassion. We've assembled different leaders, different professionals, technologists and non-technologists, and people that are doing extraordinary work to join us for all the summits we've had at this particular 43rd GatherVerse event. We've had thousands of people, yet we've barely begun. Why? Because this is the most extraordinary time that we've ever known in the auspices of innovation. Might this be complemented by the most extraordinary time that humanity came first? When it comes to the considerations of anything that's developed, made, and built. With people hacking and making and coding, shipping and expressing. What will we leave to generations to come? Here we assemble at GatherVerse AI XR for Humanity Summit, Day 2, coming off the heels of an extraordinary Day 1. There was much unpacked, and we have that yet available for those who may not have been afforded to attend. But from the looks of everything, with everybody here at GatherVerse.live and our various social streams, we see that many of you come back for more, and some, maybe perhaps for the first time, tell a neighbor, tell a friend that GatherVerse Live is on. As quick as it comes, as quick as it goes, for us to be able to have these important dialogues, because the interaction of the level of hyper-realistic, immersive, simulated imaginings digitally displayed before us on these devices are becoming more closer than they've ever been. The idea and the intention is never for us to be able to tap on our screens, but to one day interact and live in them. But this time, our screens are talking back. With computer vision and multimodal capacity, they're speaking, they're seeing, they're listening, they're hearing. What will they say? And yet here we're afforded this small opportunity, this briefest of windows, to be able to educate those who have no earthly idea of the wave which is to come. Everything that we've known about this hyperscale when it comes to AI is minuscule compared to what we'll understand tonight, tomorrow, next week. The year is still young. And for if we do not help guide generations to come today, and if we don't teach those who have the opportunity, the willingness, the desire to understand the magnitude and the immensity of the technologies that we're innovating and building, if we don't teach them in a good way, then something else will. We're so appreciative to be able to have all of you assembled with us. We're about to launch our first roundtable discussion, Who Controls the Layer Around Us? Power, Access, and the Immersive Future. Why does this intersection of AI and immersive technologies matter so much? Because we've gone from spatial computing to spatial intelligence, to visual computing to visual intelligence, and from the ability where it would take dozens of women and men to build the virtual world, and now can be done in a prompt. And we have some of those people with us that have built these virtual worlds, and their work is incredible. My goodness, how far we have come. I'll leave you with this, that all technologies and emerging technologies abide within the ecotat and the eco-habitat of technology itself, of artificial intelligence and XR, spatial computing, robotics, autonomous systems, Web3, Web4, Web5, DeFi, DAOs, dApps. You have so many other different technologies. In fact, there's over 275 of them. But what happens when these technologies begin to merge, pair together? And the amalgamations lead towards pairing of those things that have come together, which leads us to technological convergence. This is far beyond the vestiges of Gartner's hype cycle. This is real, and the impact is limitless. Now is the time for these conversations. We may not be afforded them tomorrow, because tomorrow may be too late. And with that, may our gather be well.
Hello and greetings. Welcome to our first roundtable panel, GatherVerse AI XR Summit Day 2. Our panel of today is titled Who Controls the Layer Around Us? Power, Access, and the Future of Immersive and the immersive future. As Christopher has said earlier, this is the best time to have these conversations, because tomorrow may be late. Now, without going too much into detail, I want to bring our panelists from around the world to introduce themselves briefly. I believe we are a whole roundtable and the world is ready to listen to what we have to us to have, and we're going to be very brief with our remarks. Now, who do I want to start with? Charlene, let's start with you briefly. Tell us who you are, what inspired you to join us today.
Thank you so much. Well, that's a great question, Lynn. My name is Charlene Nichols. I'm the founder of Omniverse City. And I don't talk about this a lot, but I'm also the founder of Optical Near Me, which is an ecosystem that empowers an entire industry. What inspired me to be here today is one of the first people I ever reached out to in my journey was Christopher from GatherVerse, because I knew as a woman in tech and early stages of building Omniverse City, I was going to need great people around me because I was building tech for a very different reason than a lot of the other people around us. I really wanted to build technology that was going to have an impact. And so
Yes.
I've continued to stay with this community because of that reason. So thank you for having me today.
We're very happy to have you join us, and thank you for even highlighting how you started, because here we're the She Power and we welcome you over and over again. Now, Wayne, please tell us who you are briefly, where you come from, and what inspired you to be here.
Yeah, thanks to be here with you today. It is a great pleasure to be here. I am Nanoan. I live in France. I am a CCO of IDO. It is an international consulting firm specialized in innovation and emerging technology. So I work with startup and SME essentially. To be sure, will be tech for humanity. And I know GatherVerse with you, Lynn, from the beginning. We discussed about metaverse. 3 or 4 years ago. So it is a long time now I know you. So I appreciate to be here today to discuss about the impact of AI and XR on the future and our humanity.
You're welcome, Nolwyn. We come from a very, very long time. And thank you so much for joining us. Tanya, over to you, briefly.
Hi everyone, I'm Tanya. I come from a background of AI and data, and I'm currently working with an Innovate UK partnership program. It collaborates University of Reading and Hawkins Brown. My work is to build intelligent systems, but what really interests me is how genuinely they support people in their daily lives. And over time, I found myself becoming more curious about not what we build, but how these systems actually shape human experiences. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation and exploring it with you all of you.
Wow, Tanya, you're very welcome. We're looking also to forward to explore this journey with you. Richard, thank you for coming once again at GatherVerse. But please tell us who you are, what inspired you to join us briefly. Your mic, please. Your mic, kindly. Yes, there you
Thanks.
go.
Yes, I'm Richard Bukowski. I'm a CEO and founder of Digital Wheel of Fortune. I'm a consultancy that focuses on digital realities. So it's the convergence of humanity and technologies, both with via trend analysis, signal finding, then also on how culturally connections are either being made, voided, when it comes to the convergence of all of these amazing technologies.
Wow, we're happy to have you once again, and you're very welcome. Devin, over to you briefly. Tell us who you are, what inspired you to join us today.
Hey, then, thank you for having me. My name is Devin Baldwin. For those of you who do not know, I'm a creative technologist, WebXR developer, and educator. Really focused on building experiences that
Yes.
connect innovation and with real world impact. I do this for organizations and companies. And yeah.
All right. Thank you for that brief introduction, and thank you for joining us once again. Anisha, over to you briefly.
Hi, Lynn. Hi, everyone. So, my name is Anisha, and I am working as a senior data engineer, working in AI and big data for fintech and also for telecommunication previously, and also working on some work for critical infrastructure, like how we can leverage AI and data for critical infrastructure. So I've been working in the industry for close to 10 years now, and actually working on some of controls and how data is being leveraged, how data is being used in the critical infrastructure, or for disaster response. That's what I'm working on, and I'm glad to join you all today.
We're also happy to have you today. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Love, over to you.
Hi, my name is Helmut Love, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I have created over $750 million in technology, particularly in healthcare and tech, and in AI at IBM. And I realized today I coach people on how to think like nine-figure thinkers, because AI is going to be so disruptive in terms of wealth. But particular for this topic, I believe that we are being asked social, spiritual, and economic questions with AI that we've never answered or had to answer. So I ran actually for mayor of Atlanta with an AI agenda, because I believe it will enable us to democratize services and solutions that we never imagined were possible. So this conversation around controlling the layer that's around us is critical to that possibility. And so I'm so excited to jump in the topic.
Yes, and we're very happy to have you, and congratulations, and keep going with your leadership journey when it comes to politics. Stefan, over to you.
Hey, I'm Stefan Youngblood in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I think I need to talk to Dr. Helmut. Yeah, it's really great to be here today, and I'm at the place, sort of a cross section between faith, technology, and sort of our experience of how those two things mend together when it comes to AI literacy. I run the Black AI think tank and National Black AI Literacy events. And it's really great to be here. This is, I don't know how many times it's been, but I really like here to be here and support. Thanks.
Stefan, you're always welcome. As many times as you can join us. And over to you, James, as well. You can please tell us who you are.
Hey, Lynn, nice to see you. Nice to see you all. Thank you for having me once again. I really appreciate it. For those of you that don't know me, my name is James Welniak, and I am the Director of Mindfulness, Focus, and Attention with CUP Advisory. That's CUP with a K, that represents the self, the individual. But I'm also the face, a male face, an adult male face of screen addiction. Screen addiction, recovery, prevention, and transformation. My partner and I'm ADD, he's ADHD. We developed a framework that really talks about, actually prepares you for when the screen disappears. When the screen disappears, we talk so much about technology, so much about the screen and what the screen can do. Well, this is what happens at the age of 40 some years old when the screen controls you. So I'm here because I'm here to share how we can get control of the screen so the screen does not control us.
All
So thank
right,
you for having me.
Yes, we're very happy to have you, James. We're looking forward to learn more about how to control the screen instead. And I am Lynn Gitao, Communications Director at GatherVerse. And with this said and done, let's get direct into the heart of the matter. We've talked about control. James, someone like James is talking about screen control. We've talked about ethics. These are concerns that are still being raised, but we want to bring them on a deeper level with you here at hand, who owns the massive layer of human experiences. And before we even start to chime in, I want us to be really brief. I am mindful of our time. I am mindful that everyone has something to say, and we're very, very attentive to listen what you have to say, and we're here to listen. But kindly, let's be brief. And I will start with you, Charlene. You have worked in the immersive space for quite a long time, as well as Richard. I'm bringing this to you. Who owns the immersive layer of human experience? Please.
Well, I'll start with I love the fact that you're using the word control because we're in an era right now where we are actively and intentionally giving control to the user of Omniverse City. When we have events, we make it very clear to them, yes, I'm glad that you're here. It's a beautiful world. It's all these beautiful things people have created. 99% of our creators don't really build on an SDK. They dream build, which means they tell us what they want, and then we have to give it to them. And we don't say, hey, here's what we're talking about. I'll give you a quick, perfect example. I had a young woman who is an actress. She's from the Bollywood community. She's here in Hollywood now, kind of reinventing herself and wants to kind of create a fusion of these two cultures, this American and Indian culture. And we had to create a space that represented that. And she was in control of that just by telling us, what she wanted and by us providing that. Now we have to give her control by showing her how to run events there, how to provide controls to her audience. We don't really know how to use these spaces. Everybody has a different set of controls in this experience because it's the first time in our history, our human history, that decentralization is possible. So control and accountability is actually quite important. And I'll let somebody else kind of chime in on that.
Definitely, Charlene, and thank you for that classical example. I'm sure that resonates with some of our speakers, but I want to hear from you, Richard, and Devin, I'm coming to you as well. Richard, what do you have to say?
Well, when I think about spatial computing, the first things that get to me are that they are predominantly, built by Silicon Valley and Shenzhen. And, it all, kind of starts even the collection of information and data, kind of with embedded in assumptions about commerce and social interactivity and information hierarchy. So, I'm familiar with, again, it's all out there, they're kind of multimodal, hopefully not fully all connected yet without privacy. But again, if everything, looks, if the main problem, or again, just even the main input is coming from, a handful of, of gatherers, then the entire perception could be wrong, or at least not as human as we'd like it to be.
Yes, I totally agree. And it feels to me like most of the innovation that comes around, someone has to dominate. It's like there's always a dominant party to every innovation, and XR is not excluded from that. But Devin, I just want to hear your expressions. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I feel in a legitimate system, ownership is split.
Yes.
People own rights over their identity, presence, motion, gaze, likeness, that type of stuff. And then creators own their works. But I feel like communities and public institutions, should kind of be in charge of stewarding civic overlays as far as companies and different entities own the infrastructure for the human layer of things, but we own, or more so control, what we give to the human layer, which is our identity, presence, and just our essence, if you will. So it's a give and take. I would say it's split between those two.
Yes, definitely. It's a split, but I think someone has more share. Someone has a lion's share than the other. But let's go deeper. Let's find out more. Stefania have something to say. Please chime in.
Yeah, so I was going to throw this out. Number one, there's a child that's the age of one of my grandchildren outside the window just playing. And just to see her through a clear screen, not something that's reflecting something back and global and AI, is refreshing and beautiful. So when it comes to control, I remember somebody saying one time that really control is an illusion. And I don't want to toss this part out like it's not a part of this conversation. So bear with me. It just says this. It's an ancient writing. For by him, all things were created, both in the heavens and on the earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him, our creator, and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. So, I don't know a sort of future in which it's just mankind and robots or AI battling it out. I really think, thank God for the Artemis that went up and showed us just how tiny we are and how much more there is out there that is possibly unknowable in this human framework. I'll stop there.
All right, that's true. That's a very good reminder that even despite of all the innovation, there is a creator who is superior than any other innovation that we think we have. James, I see you nodding. It's like you have something to say. Bring it on.
Here we go. I'm off mute. Yeah. So I learned this. I think the GatherVerse community knows my relationship with screens. Let's just be clear. You can laugh about it later, but here, I actually discovered this about control, because Stefan, what you were just saying was so spot on about you don't have control. And here's the thing: is that all of our control is put into this device. And the last time I was on GatherVerse was with Christopher, and this died. I was in a 15-day trip across the hemisphere, a business trip, and I was sweating because I didn't have SMS. I wasn't able to authenticate, so I couldn't get into banking. I couldn't get in. I was on day 2, and so I put a link to an article. I'm not promoting, not selling anything, but if you want to follow along in my journey and my story of recovery and transformation, this happened. So I was stuck, and I had to come up with a plan, and I'm not made of money. So buying a brand new iPhone. And so luckily I had transferred all of my nervous system, focus and attention, habit routines to this as part of my program, as part of the framework when you want to reduce down control and get control back to yourself. And here's the thing about AI environments. One quick thing, Lynn, is that putting these routines, attention, focus and retention routines and reminders into platforms to say, hey, you've been on this. You need to take a break, human. Let's do talk about the nervous system, talk about how to get your focus and attention back. That's what I'm all about, and that's why I'm here. And I love this question, because the question is, you should own it. You, God, your guides, the universe. That's who owns it.
amazing reminder, or putting that reminders when it's time to put the screen off. I absolutely agree with that. And just allow me to steer a little bit when it comes to ownership. I remember Devin mentioned about the balance when it comes to ownership, but I just want to let us dive in more deeper. I'm coming to you, Nolwenn and Tanya. What does true ownership of massive environment actually mean for the people living inside it? Let's leave the companies alone. Can we just speak for the people living inside it? I remember Stefan said control is an illusion, but let me hear something else. Let me see what is your perception on this. Nolwenn, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So ownership is very hard, to be fair, and we produce many data. That is true. And in Europe, probably you know we have many standards also,
Yes.
and we try in Europe that to protect citizens. So we have GDPR, and I know many countries would like to have the same because the idea is to protect the citizens to avoid manipulation of our data. To be fair. Today, we have an AI Act. So we are the first continent who have a regulation dedicated on AI to classify all risk and to be sure that it will, again, not manipulate the citizen. We have for XR, we have a XR code of conduct. So we have a big community. The name it is XR for Europe, and we have a program. It is XR for Human. The other project is OpenVerse. So we try in our continent to take care of the data of the citizen,
Yes.
and in the same time educate people. Not only that, that's why now we have different ministry dedicated on AI. So here in my country, we have a dedicated ministry about that. And she worked with different ministry, including education, including industry, because AI is everywhere. And especially when we discuss about ownership and immersive environment. So the idea for us in Europe is try. I can't say we will achieve to do that, but is try to have the a shape for the
Yes.
citizen, to have a confidence of technology and trust, because we can develop a tech for humanity only if people are trust on technology and they can control the product and they understand how it's work. And that is started by education and regularization. And I
Yes.
guess I am very happy to be with you because I'm convinced this is to share how we work in our different country, in our different continents, how we
Definitely.
can build an inclusive technology, because it is the aim at the end.
Yeah, definitely. And you bring a very important point. And Europe has been a case study of putting guardrails for the citizens themselves. I wonder if more countries are taking that path or each continent has its own path. But thank you for also highlighting on the issue of trust. That is something we're going to go to. But Tanya, let me hear your thoughts. I'm coming to you, Anisha, as well as Dr. Love. But Tanya, over to you.
Thanks, Lynn. I'd love to build on what Devin said. We often talk about ownership as being part of being companies or platforms, but in immersive spaces, it feels more layered than that. Yes, the infrastructure is owned by who built it, but there are real people living and interacting in these environments every day, and to some extent, it's their demand that is being served by these technologies that are being built. And if, for example, if a user, if something gets built, but the user doesn't feel that it feels overwhelming to use, or they don't feel the need, so it won't launch because there is demand. That's why there is supply, and that's the only way it is working. So people do have ownership, and sometimes I feel like for me as a kid, when phones weren't that prominent, I was like, oh, I would love if I could just call somewhere to my brother, or just go there and
Yes.
talk to him. Yeah, and we were like, that would have been magic, but now it is today. And sure, there are some downsides to what we have, but there are also some good points, and it's actually us who needs to find a balance. It's not, it lies to with us how we want to accept what we are building. Yeah.
All right, that is remarkably expressed. I believe that is the case. There's so many things we used to dream of. Uh, Talking through a glass, watching the world in a different angle just through a glass, talking to people around the world, like what we're doing right now. These are things that we used to dream of. But right now it's becoming a reality. Isn't that amazing? It is amazing. But at the end of the day, as what Tanya expressed, we need to find that balance, what is amazing and what is going to that degree of harm. But I also want to hear from you, Anisha. What is your take on this particular subject? Your mic, kindly. There you go.
Hi, thanks, Lynn. So I think for ownership, like the true ownership in an environment like this means like multiple things to me. So most of the ownership is held by the platforms, and for example, Meta holds a lot of the ownership materials, and also like when you go back, the infrastructure providers like the cloud providers and all, they hold a lot of ownership rights. But I feel like what needs to be like addressed right now is users or content creators, they think that they actually hold a lot of ownership, but there's a certain line which exists between like actual ownership or like legal ownership and actual the ownership that they feel that they have right now. So the content creators or owners, they can feel that they actually own their own data, own digital assets, or the right to anonymity or the right to unauthorized use. So that needs to be addressed. Sometimes like you need to have control over your digital representation, or sometimes you need to have control over your like social growth, or the protection against your digital assets, a protection against your like content creation. They invest a lot of time and energy into creating that content and creating the digital life. So I think that needs to be addressed. Like there are certain controls which needs to be put in, for example like identity ownership or like the digital asset ownership, which I, as far as in today's world, I feel it's mostly controlled by the platforms that we are using. But as someone mentioned that the GDPR and all needs to be like added in other countries as well, and not only in Europe. It needs to be present in the North America or other countries.
Yeah.
Another thing that I'd like to point is the economic ownership. So, for example, a content creator creates some digital assets. You should be having the right to like monetize your creations. And there are certain times, for example, TikTok as a platform, there are a lot of creators who get banned, and they lose their like life's worth of their work, and they don't get a chance to actually go and talk about it. So the portability of that like they should be, even if they get banned, they should be able to port that their life's work to another platform. So I think that needs to be addressed.
Definitely. And let's just unpack what you said when it comes to we live in a world of content. It's like everyone is creating content, whether writing, whether through a podcast, whether through a video, whether through a reel. Majority of the people and the younger generations especially are creating content. But the question is, who owns this content? Can one day this platform wake up and say, we no longer allow this kind of content? For your content to go further, you need to pay this amount. And I'm seeing that with so many platforms. I'm seeing that with LinkedIn. I'm seeing that with so many platforms now getting that trend. If you want to get reaching a wider reach, can you just pay this amount of money and we will expose you to the world? I certainly think that I understand the point of monetizing, but I feel like there's an explosive that is not being handled. And I really appreciate, Anisha, that you brought that out. We can unpack that deeper in another session or something. But as for now, I want to hear from Dr. Love. Please tell us what you have to say.
Sure. I'll say a few things. So one, I think the ownership ultimately is it belongs to the people. And what I mean is these should serve all of us, right? The challenge is, I think we see this already in social media. is that we all are creating this content. We're all in part, engaged in that, but we, the people, aren't all safe, right? Is it safe for a child to go onto just social media? We're not even talking here about where AI is taking us. And it isn't safe because maybe they're getting access to things they shouldn't. Even for an adult, like let's say an adult has a gambling problem. Have we made it safe for them to get engaged on platforms? No, we kind of put it all on that individual, right? And we kind of exploit one another, right? The challenge is this new stage of AI will enable of exploitation and influence like none other, right? So now we're really trusting each other with kind of putting each other into different universes. And I think the thing that's going to be interesting is we still need the freedom of choice for individuals and sovereignty, right?
Yes.
But we also need the ability for various groups to compete over how safe they're going to make their spaces. I think we're going to see us competing, right, in which universes we're going to be in. And those individuals who really curate with wisdom, human wisdom, right, the spaces that are best for other humans will hopefully be the winners of the game, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because I'm happy to choose to go into a space that is curating the best for me as opposed to exploiting me.
Yes.
And I think the last thing I want to say is I do think that government has a very important role in terms of protecting, right? And we're not even there with social media to enable those sort of like safe spaces, right? And now it's going to get next level. Think about AI applied to education, right? What messages will you send to a child? We
Yes.
already have nations that have no problem feeding each other hate, right? To children, right? And this is going to be possible at a next level. So there's obviously great danger, but there's great good, right? And we're just going to have to curate. The owners are going to have to realize a next level responsibility. And I believe the government is going to have to play an important parental role of making sure that we don't harm one another. And that's going to be unnatural because today they are such slaves to lobbyists. They are such slaves to dollars. We're going to have to find a way to curate political leaders who stand above those things, and that's the challenge in front of us.
Yeah,
Lynn,
Dr. Okay, please
I have to chime in on this, and I'll tell you why. I've built a system like this. So Omniverse City is 5 years old, and we've solved this problem through an invitation strategy. So when you have a space, first of all, you own all of the assets that you bring to the space. If we're creating, which we do at a very low cost, if you look at our model, how we've developed the Omniverse City, we've lowered the bar of entry for anyone to be a creator in this space. And we've allowed people to bring things that they've built in other platforms to the Omniverse City. Since we're pixel streaming, they own the content and they could broadcast it to a place where people can enjoy it, yet they still own it. We have to really acknowledge how many creators have been displaced recently. Thousands of platforms and people have lost their life's work. Legacy is really important. And I think the biggest answer that we have to address is education and accountability. Every individual has to really be in a position to own their own little fiefdom of content, information, domain, and then have a place where it could be shared. And unfortunately, the leaders that had the ball, they never built with that intention in mind. But there's a lot of platforms who have. And, invitation and letting people control their domain and be accountable for what goes on within their domain, and then have an overarching kind of city-wide strategy where it's kind of how civilization began. We didn't really have any of these technologies.
Yes, definitely, Charlene. I want to put a hold to that, and this is something we can pick up. And I just want to acknowledge more innovators like yourself, Charlene, what you're doing, bringing up platforms where the creators have their ownership rights. And what Dr. Love said, I think there's gonna be also a season where we're gonna have so many innovators, and us as the consumers, we're going to have to choose who is the safest for me, and that is the person who wins. That's the future I'm looking forward to. But allow me to shift gears to another topic, that is, how can we guarantee immersive systems serve humanity? Richard, I see you want to chime in, and anyone who wants to chime in on this, but I want to hear from you, Richard, Devin, Stefan, James. Over to you.
Sure. Just a quick thing about what we were just talking about. When I look at pervasive sensing technologies, it reminds me a lot of my background, which is in marketing and like a very early digital marketer. And so I'm like always surprised on how, again, because we're talking about an environment that the physical environment itself is the sensor. So we may not be able to kind of compartmentalize like who we are, what we want to do, and things like that. And then again, how people use that information. So I don't think half the people in the world know how much the advertisers pick up information on you. Mm-hmm. Some people kind of pick it up, these days on their browser because they might be cookied and they're retargeted the same thing over and over again. But if you pay, with your credit card at the supermarket, yes, that information is shared, it's sold, it's done, all those kind of things. But I like to think about it more as like a utopian, view, because there's dystopia all over the place. So, my voice is, kind of little, kind of forward that way when it comes to, how we've been able to hopefully be able to use these things like smart flooring, yes, letting people know that they haven't gotten out of bed, in a day or two, or acoustic technologies, that can kind of tell just from your voice, that you have COVID, that you might have, have respiratory, and again, and having this information, used for, again, for a betterment of you, betterment of your, of your community. So just real quick on that part, that there's a lot of information already out there, that, again, on a very ambient way, and again,
Richard,
a lot of good, uses could be.
Richard, I'm listening to you, and I could hear the secrets of the advertisers being exposed, and I'm very appreciative that you brought that out. I'm sure that our audience are marking that down, and just being safe, not because our information is out there. Is there a way? Are we at a point of no return? Devin, please tell us what you think, and then I'll come to you, Stefan, then James.
Well, I spoke about it in a previous GatherVerse. It's like how Richard said, it's like they're using our data, using lots of information. My apologies, I'm getting a call. I'm ignoring it though. They're using our information, and a lot of times we just go through just accepting permissions and giving away our rights just through these contracts that we're not going through and really being careful about what we're reading about. So we give our information, we give our personal, tidbits about ourselves so they can be able to market to us. And, a lot of times that's to our detriment, not so much a detriment, but I don't want to buy what you're selling me, put plainly. But that's to answer that question. Did you want me to speak on the proposed question or just that?
Oh, just that. That is enough. That was impactful, compelling, and thank you for chiming in on that. Stefan, I want to hear from you, James, and anyone who'd want to chime in. I see our time is really, really flying fast. But briefly, Stefan.
Yeah, I'll go real fast. And how do we guarantee it? I think we guarantee it by doing it. So if you are involved with human kindness, goodness, works, whatever it is, relationships, just do that. So that's how you do it, by guaranteeing it, is you do it. It's not necessarily in front of a screen, but just go do human, and that's it. I just want to throw that out there.
Amazing. Go to human. I see Shelly clapping to that, and we totally agree with that. James, what do you have to say?
Yeah, so from a guaranteeing freedom from a system perspective, I go back to the core of who I am, which is a consultant. I'm a consultant, been consulting since I came out of my mother's womb, I think. I worked for Deloitte for 15 years, but I was on the business side. So here's the thing, and I'm all about strategy. Instagram got into trouble because they didn't have a strategy for attention, and the kids consumed by it. I was consumed by it, but it also goes with shopping. It also
Yes.
goes with Amazon. Even LinkedIn is at risk because they have a quota. Wow, if you publish a lot, and Charlene, you were talking about this, I believe, about over promoting, over content, over. So if these programs, these platforms don't have a plan, a strategy for your attention, ask for
Yes.
that. Ask for that, because that's
Yeah.
what destroyed mine. It just, I didn't lose focus and attention because I lacked ambition. I won a fancy award at Deloitte for high performer. I was the
Yes.
consultant that sat on the toilet, but I did not have a strategy for my attention. Attention.
I hear you, James. That
We
brings up
actually,
very
we
compelling
actually
points.
have.
Shelly, let me just before you even go there, I think I see so many people in a chiming in, but Shelly, I'll bring you on this. But let me just give Tanya and Dr. Love something to say, and then I'm coming to you, Shelly. And Anisha, I also see you paying attention. No, when I think everyone wants to chime in on this, but let's start with Tanya. Please bring it on, Tanya.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to answer to James first. Is that I do agree that when it was built, all of this was not foreseen. The impact it had, currently also, what impact AI has, we don't know. We can't fully see it. If we zoom out for a second, we don't know what's going to happen in every aspect. However, what we can do is have a more open-minded, more intentional, people-centric approach, like Stefan said, and having the people at the heart of it. Just like how Instagram now has a time limit.
Yes.
How much time limit you want to use it for, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. I used to go through the scrolling, the doom scrolling that we all go through, and I however got control back to me.
Good.
Thank you, that I want to set a 15-minute timer and I don't exceed it, and Instagram has provided it. So as long as we feel safe in an environment that's being created, it has a people-centric approach. I think we should only follow those kind of softwares and those kind of communities and those spaces to be in.
Yes, that was nicely built from what James said. And Anisha and Dr. Love, and then Nolwenn, and then Charlene, because I see our timer is kicking. But Anisha, quickly tell us what you think. Do you want to build up on what James said?
Yeah, sure. So I feel that building models where the users can actually control the systems, and you have like user controlled models or technical models which are user controlled, and some models which build up on the trust that the users place in the systems is very important and should be added. As like Tanya said, like Instagram or other platforms have provided mechanisms for actually building that up, and where you actually take control back to you, back to the user. So that I feel is much more important. Another thing that I would like to mention is like self-regulatory bodies. For example, we do have GDPR, we do have like other bodies which guarantee the um, regulation, but I think there are other regulatory bodies that should be built and on a granular level, for example, on a technical level, on an organizational level, that should be included more and more. And user controlled AI, which serves the like user of the interests of the user and not the interest of the platform, should be included. So I think that will help.
Definitely, the user of the interest should always, the
Yeah.
interest of the user should always comes
Mhm.
first. And Dr. Love, and then I'll come to you, Shadeen, and then we'll have something to with you, Nolwenn. But Dr. Love,
Yeah, so two things. I think it's important that people can own it. And so I get very excited about sovereignty. I get very excited about the competition for the different universes and what's influencing them. But I think the other thing that's important is that we need to, I would say, fund or incentivize the humanity of these universes. And what I mean by that is if you look at I'm going to use education, right? Or I'm going to use wealth sharing. We know that wealth sharing is one of the biggest issues facing us as modern humans. How are we using these universes to forward financial education, forward entrepreneurship, forward actually the actual sharing of wealth, disbursement of grants, right? Direct to entrepreneurs, as opposed to through, right, large entities that that really take advantage of those large dollars. There's a level of integrity that we'll be able to apply to systems because of AI. And I think that we need to incentivize those through collective agencies like government, not to actually do them, but to incentivize private-public partnerships and innovators who would take AI to places that don't obviously look like they would make a ton of money, right? But if you think about even just applying AI to mental health in foster care children, right? What can you do to create universes for them that are actually helping them when maybe the human world around them is not supportive?
Yes.
We haven't even explored those things. But I think innovation in those areas are going to ensure that they serve humanity, and we can incentivize that both philanthropically and within our government.
Exactly. And thank you for bringing up the point of education and the role of education when it comes to even just bringing in the control factor of technology. But let me just hear from Nolwyn. Do you have something to say? How can we guarantee immersive systems serve humanity?
Yeah, I'm totally agree with all what you say, all of you, to be fair, and I really appreciate our discussion. My perception, first of all, if we discuss about access, about immersive world, we should remind us that not everybody have access to internet. So 28% of the world population don't have internet access. So when we discuss about digital world, we should remind us that not everybody have digital access. In order to have a tech for humanity, AI, XR for humanity, I'm pretty convinced that we need more and more public and private partnership, to be fair, and really on collaboration and not on competition. That it is the math. It is a hill for me if we are on competition, and more to work with interdisciplinary approach. So many times in tech, we are tech push, to be fair, because we love tech. We love that. But many times we forgot all things around neuroscience. We forgot social and human science. We forgot anthropology. We forgot sociology. While it is this kind of person who can help us at the same time to integrate humanity. And tech for tech, to be fair, I'm sorry to say that, is stupid. Push techno for push techno is not for humanity because it is critical material behind that. And we can't consider we are only different planet. We have only one planet. And all of us, we live in the same planet. So that's why I'm very convinced that we need more and more public-private partnership. We need more and more interdisciplinary approach. And also, if you want to speak with everybody, to be fair, we have to take into account all bias and stereotype we put on our IT system.
Yes.
Because not everybody is speaking English. And today, when you are in the tech sector, if you don't speak English, it's very hard. So I know so many people. How many people speak Swahili? How many people speak small language? We are more than 3,000 languages around the world. So that it is a diversity, and we need this diversity in our system. So I'm sorry, it's not the right answer about the question, but it was important that too, I guess.
And that is a compelling point that you bring there. I was currently reading a book called Range, and it was saying that what we're heading to is a world of marrying different interdisciplinaries, marrying health with finance, marrying health with the technology. We can't just afford to be specialized in one thing, especially technologists. And I remember Christopher normally says, if you're a technologist, this is your time to be a technologist and an educator at the same time. So you bring up a very important point. And Charlene, I'm coming to you as well as Stefan, as our time flies. I want us to be brief. How do global differences influence access and control of immersive words, and how can that be addressed?
I just think I want to go back to the universal point. I have given people ultimate control from all different countries and all different backgrounds and all different ethnicities and all different social groups. And I'm going to tell you that most people don't know what to do with all of that control. They need a lot of support. They need to understand, like, first of all, let's not even forget about the fact that we're talking about mostly small batch experiences, because I don't know if anyone here's tried to get 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 or a million people concurrently in a space, but it's extremely difficult, especially if they're coming in from around the world. I'll tell you what we've done is we've integrated with Fortnite, which might sound super surprising, but they're able to hold tens of millions of people concurrently. They've built the infrastructure, and being a platform that's integrated with them, we've learned a lot about what people do in these larger mass player ecosystems and how to facilitate that. So we really have to put ourselves in a position to understand what people are doing when they come from all these places, so we can better prepare. We're way far away from where we need to be, but I'm here with anybody else who wants to stand with me to champion that cause.
And Charlene, we're here to stand with you as well as a community. Thank you for bringing that up. Stefan, please tell us your final thoughts as we almost close up.
Okay, so maybe I think most of the GatherVerses have been in English. And so I think there may have been or be a large part of the world that hasn't been able to have as much influence. And this is all types of conferences because of literacy and literally knowing what we're hearing in here right now. So just bring us to them. Well, no, making sure we're teaching globally when it comes to AI literacy, I think is something big.
Yes, definitely. And thank you for bringing that up. I personally come from Africa. Africa, we have over 5,000 tribes. Personally, in my country, we have over 47 tribes, people who speak differently. And having that common ground of finding one language that will unite us and just bringing people together, and also having educators who are willing to go, I know English. Am I willing to go out there in the community to spread the word using my local language? It comes from that angle as well. But I want to hear your final close, Richard, Nisha, Tanya. Give me briefly, what do you have to say? Richard, briefly?
Well, again, I never got to get to the guarantee. Like, is there a way we can guarantee this to serve humanity? And I know right now we can't, because these layered levels don't even exist yet. But the parallels that we can find is like in the financial system, right? Like the deposit insurance and audit requirements, fiduciary duties all happened after crises, right? So like the really kind of like the point I try to get out, or at least a question worth raising, is that do we want to wait for a 2008 financial like issue, with immersive technologies, before we start to build the regulatory scaffolding for next time?
Yes, the time is now. The time is now. We don't have to wait.
And it should be us. Right?
Yes,
we understand. We can at least put language to it. We kind of where it goes.
Yes.
Do we leave it to politics? Or government? I don't know about that.
It's a multi-stakeholder approach. Everywhere, education, governance, people, everyone, everywhere. Tanya, then to you, Anisha, briefly.
Yes, I would agree that there are multiple stakeholders involved, and we all need to work on this together and make sure that what we're building is having a people-centric approach. It's built around the people. It's taught of people, and our main purpose is to serve humanity and not create something that is just for the sake of creation or innovation, but something that genuinely help people in their daily lives, whether it's safety, whether it's just helping them with their health or anything. And I feel that all of us need to work on it together to make sure that happens.
Yes, as we always say, GatherVerse humanity comes first. Anisha, briefly, what is your final take?
Hi. So for me, I feel that when you actually go around the world, different countries and different sections, so people have different levels of understanding about what access is and about what control is. And I think education is very, very important. Like organizations should actually focus on educating people about like access and control, and also the cultural differences should be taken into account when you actually build systems which control and build systems which actually take control over immersive technology. And a lot of people and a lot of people in different countries have a different understanding of their access rights and control. Is like a person in America and a person in India will have different levels of understanding. So I think um, while global differences are important, but cultural differences should also be taken into account.
Yes, that is a very, very strong conclusion. And as I always say, we have not run out of gathers, we just ran out of time. So we have more future events coming up. We're looking forward to have you back again. We appreciate your expressions. You are very kind. Thank you for the education. Thank you for your time. And for the audience, I request you kindly follow these amazing leaders, what they're doing, interact with them, engage with what they're doing. But as for now, our roundtable was well. Over to you, GatherVerse team. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Greetings and welcome to our fireside and our first fireside chat discussion here at GatherVerse AI XR for Humanity Summit Day 2. And we're coming off the heels of an extraordinary, really powerful first roundtable discussion to kick off for Day 2, which was incredibly and immensely enjoyable. But with me now, I have Iris Pan, who's been doing really powerful and more important work in design than I may fathom. And it's so good to have you back again, Iris. Will you please briefly let everyone know who you are, what inspired you to be here? Welcome.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and good to see you again, Christopher. I've been working in the design field for more than 15 years. I previously worked at Amazon and MasterCard in the kind of new technology design domain. I've been leading a lot of design features in both fintech, AR shopping, and new technology in the kind of broader sense. And I've also juried more than 20 international design awards. So I've witnessed how the industry evolved during all these years. So I have a lot to share and a lot of passion about humanizing technology.
And humanizing technology, one conversation at a time, is definitely what we're here for. Thank you so much, Iris, and congratulations to the extraordinary amount of effort and dedication that you've contributed to really the design spectrum. You truly have been afforded the opportunity to design and pioneering effect. There's been extraordinary progress. And speaking of that progress, what are your brief and current thoughts on where we find ourselves today, contemporary at our time, when it comes to this intersection of immersive technologies and visual intelligence and AI, and how far we've arrived just from the last time you were even here at GatherVerse?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm so excited to see all this progress. And I've been, following a lot of innovative work. And just for example, now if we find ourselves in a VR experience, we're not really experiencing something that is pre-programmed. We can actually have a live conversation with a virtual character, and we can actually have some really intelligent response from the environment. For example, if you are playing a sad character in a VR game, now you can enter a bar and the bartender can, chat with you in their own voice and have a real-time generated response based on your gaze, based on your mood, based on the way you walk. So it's really a human to human connection rather than something that feels programmed and staged. So I'm really seeing, real-time conversation happening, and something that is tailored to the player, to the human, and to the context. That is something we've never seen before, because in the past, it is very expensive to generate a lot of 3D content that can suit different environment and different players. But now with AI, and especially generative AI, the cost of generating all these expensive assets becomes almost zero. And that opens a lot of possibilities to design new ways of interaction.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about contextual progressive scale within immersive installations, and true to form, our NPCs interact with us. They can, in some ways, see and notice our disposition. To agree of what we're looking at, theory of mind integrated into Omniverse, it's just wild to think about, especially when you start thinking about these physics engines, polynomial constructs. But just to think that the animated scene is moving and reacting based on our presence alone, it's far beyond this procedural generative state, isn't it?
Yeah, so the difference it makes is that in the past, we always feel there's somewhat a barrier between human and the technology, right? Like if I'm playing an app, I have to, find out the menu and click a button. And then if I'm interacting with Alexa, I have to say the command like, "Hey, Alexa." And sometimes my Alexa doesn't get me. So there are always these moments of friction where I feel like the technology failed me, or, it lost me somewhere. There's always this barrier between me and the technology. But now in generative AI powered universe or metaverse, I would feel a real immersion, and there's no barrier between me and technology, and it's truly a seamless experience. And that means I can truly trust the system and develop a real emotional presence in the system. And yeah.
No, it seems to me, and on the heels of that, and thank you for sharing, we're heading into this. If we were in Vibe Code 2025, we're vibe designing and pairing that with Vibe Code, and everybody's has the opportunity to be able to build these platforms, but they're not as unique because AI itself cannot replace the level heart of an artist and the designer, and the diversity that the palette of the designer has, the artist has. And so, could you speak to us and help us to understand? Frontier labs are popping up everywhere. We see people that are building out and shipping out all different types of AI powered and built development, agentic system based powered and constructed platforms and protocols, if you will. Speak to the design of it. Where are we headed, and what are the design principles 2026 April?
Yeah, so I've kind of went through this process myself. Initially, I was really, excited about the creative possibilities of AI, and I've played with all these AI tools, and then I've seen other people's work, and gradually, I think we've all seen this trend towards more meaningful and more mindful use of AI in creative work. For example, when I jury all these design awards, it's very obvious when someone just kind of give the Gen AI a couple of commands and then generates a bunch of work and use that to submit all these design awards. It's very easy to tell sometimes when something is created with a mindful heart or without. So I believe in this age, we've come to the consensus that yes, AI is powerful in creating all these forms and even sometimes giving us ideas, but it's always more important to be aware of your intentions and be clear about what you want to achieve. I think intention is always more important than forms.
Tell us more about that. Let's lean into it a second. Intention, and why is this? Are we seeing intention in terms of the pre-production value of whatever it is that we're building and designing, or intention in terms of ultimately what our designs will manifest themselves to be, especially when it comes to the type of AI, of these multimodal integrations of the interaction that's interacting with us?
Yeah, it kind of is all of that. So in the design process, I think there's a famous quote that design is the rendering of intent, right? Like as a designer, you come up with an idea, and then there's always this famous double diamond process. You diverge with all your ideas, and then you converge with some constraints from the real world, and then you diverge again, converge again. So in this double diamond or multiple diamond process, there's always, you know, the designers and the group's intent come into this flow, and then kind of going with the flow and until the final result come to life. So I believe even with AI in the game, we have to always be very clear about our own intent during the whole process, and be very clear about why I'm using this AI tool for, you know, what I'm using it for, and what am I aiming for. So it's very easy to get lost with all these multitude of forms coming out of AI, and it's becoming even more important to be very clear-minded.
You know, I find it interesting, and thank you for sharing that. It's an incredible quote. I'll need to lock that in. I think about where we're at right now, Iris. As I said in the opening and introduction, it would usually take dozens of people to build virtual worlds, but we now have the power to build a virtual world by way of a prompt. And we see all these other different types of environments. If you look at Genie 3, if you look at what Dr. Fei-Fei Li is building with World Labs and Marble, you start thinking about the ability to be able to create a prompter, to be able to take a flat image, integrate that into a virtual environment, and it could create a whole virtual experience based on that environment. But if that's the case, if what we're seeing is reality, which it is, and it's only going to be progressive, these diffusion and adversarial networks, these models that are able to build out this type of generative design, what role is next for the artist? I do not believe that we're sunsetting our corpus of creative community leaders in this world. I want to think that this now empowers or challenges the creative mind to go even further than where we've been presently.
Yes, I agree, and I agree in a positive way. So yeah, when you know the washing machine was invented, right? There are a lot of human washers that went out of job, and so does painters. When photography was first invented, a lot of realistic painters, they went out of job, but then people have to figure their way out. So we, you know, here we have surrealism and other type of art forms. So I think AI is also, you know, a very powerful trend or wave that pushes us designers and creators to really think deeper about why we create, about the purpose of what, why we do what we do, and then how can we use these tools to better serve our purposes rather than kind of getting carried away by the tools themselves. And I believe, well, there's another famous quote from a professor from Stanford. He said, what if the purpose of art is that we make it, right? What if the definition or purpose of art itself is that we make it? So I'd like to embrace that quote and and think that we still have a role to play in this age.
Let me ask you this, and thank you for sharing that quote. I want to run this by you. I'm going to say a statement, and I want you to autocorrect me, if you will, or is it wrong or is it right? That AI in the hands of a non-artist could generate incredible art. AI in the hand of an artist can create something extraordinary.
Well, I wouldn't like categorize them between, you know, the class or quality of work, but I do think what differentiates between, you know, a piece of work generated by AI and a masterpiece from an artist is the how deeply it can speak to the human soul.
Does
Yeah,
this go
that's
back
my
to
standard.
and thank you. Does this go back to intention?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe just maybe there is something special about being a human, and maybe there is something special that maybe only another human being can speak to me in a certain way. I don't know. This kind of a question mark there, not a statement, but a question mark.
Let's flip side this for a second. So you're also an educator. You teach art and design, and have been for some time. I sit here and I think about it that there are many people that in their database, in the confines of their mind and their heart, they want to design. They have just these incredible imaginations, and they've worked with artists for decades, generations, and saying, I have an idea, something I want to get built, but I don't possess the hands of an artist. Does the machine now, the machine in the loop, does it play the role of the artistic hand for the mind and me being able to communicate and translate it into what it is that I want designed? And if that's the case, when we think about the database, the different types of skills that you have, there are many disciplines. You're well awarded. You have a very storied background in art and design. It seems to me that those who have the more in their own database, in their own learning, can commandeer these machines to do even more and to be able to maximize or scale their capabilities.
I agree to that in some way. And even in the like fine art world, there's always this phenomenon of, one big artist, one very famous artist employing a group of art workers, right, to finish their painting. Sometimes when we see like a giant painting, it is not done by the original artist, quote unquote. It's done by the artist kind of framing it and then giving it out to a big group of art laborers. So in that way, AI can kind of serve the role of the art labor worker, right? But even with the human labor worker, they have some of their own styles and techniques and thoughts when they draw out that programmed part of the painting. So I don't know, I'm kind of biased towards the human artists. I still think even as a human art worker, the labor worker in some way, you still have your own thoughts and you kind of give your own thoughts to the painting sometimes.
Do we have an opportunity now to create great XR? I say this with, I'm very critical often of what I've been seeing over the years of what people consider just the advances of XR, spatial intelligence, visual intelligence now, and seeing that I've judged many competitions. I've seen many different XR platforms, and I've never really been so attuned to the design of with fidelity and seeing that we've hit the zenith of design when it comes to XR. I feel like we are just now entering into an opportunity, I think, to really start to see the capability and the full intent of when it comes to XR design itself. And it really speaks to this topic of transforming the interaction layer of XR. Does the more animated and the more intelligent the environment capabilities become, does that play a role in extending the outcome of the intent of design itself?
Can you kind of elaborate on your question a little bit?
Sure, permit me to. Right now, we design and build with tools. We may build with Maya and Blender, and we're looking at Gaussian splat. We're looking at a number of different types of new and not so new, innovative ways to be able to take this design and to create these 3D hyper realistic immersive simulated environments. But now we're introducing the intelligent layer to all of it. Does the intelligent layer accentuate? Does it highlight? Does it make further into view that contextual and environmental fidelity of the immersive experience itself? Or does it work as a companion partner? I really wonder about this. What role does the intelligent layer have when it comes to immersive three-dimensional environmental design and character design?
Yeah, I think it's more of a multiply kind of effect. So as you said, the visual effect of the immersive environment itself, I think we still need to see a lot more progress in that, right?
Sure.
Even with the new production flow, as much as I'm seeing it, I haven't tried the engine that you mentioned by Dr. Feifei Li yet, but I'm still seeing people playing with Blender and just new pipelines in Blender to create these environments. So as much as people are still using Blender and these existing tools, I think the aesthetics and the visual qualities of these virtual environments will stay similar. But on top of that, the generative AI powered, more intelligent interaction, it will give these kind of pre-existing visual quality another layer of meaning. Because in the past, let's say I'm playing a VR game, and let's go back to the sad character VR game story. So if I'm a sad character in the VR environment, I might be able to trigger some environmental prompts or, some props, some other characters' responses, but these are pre-programmed and pre-built by the 3D artists, and it's very expensive to generate these environments or prompts or props or character responses. But now I can really see a very different response or environmental change in real time because it's generated by AI. Although the visual quality of these things may not be necessarily that high, but I will feel a very strong sense of immersion because it's responding to me in real time. So I think it's kind of, yeah, magnifying, it's more like amplifying the effect of this existing visual quality.
It's interesting as I extract from what you're saying and listening under the sound and the banner of your voice. I sat here in real time and it just kind of appeared to me to consider that might the intelligent layer be a new layer of design itself? And the
Exactly.
more capable intelligence or artificial intelligence becomes, um, and what it can render in terms of its ability to communicate post inference, the way it's able to deliver information in a successive way. It it manifests itself, whether in language model or when it comes to diffusion, it manifests itself in design arrays that can interpret, really based on its training data, the design of the world and what it's helped to make it what it's become. With that said, Iris, do you believe that with the type of extraordinary models and agentic systems we have, do you believe that it's possible for us to enter into new design schematic? And it could be fine design, it could be graphic design, all different type origami, if you will. Do you believe that we can head into a new discovery phase, a design that we've never seen before? Is that possible?
I think it's possible, yeah. Well, I'm not exactly sure like the the level of innovation that you are imagining. Is it a new type of design language or a completely new design category, a
You know,
genre?
that's such a good question. If we take a procedural generative environments that were mainly produced by algorithms, and then let's say inspired by machine learning, but now put a neural net in that. And a neural network is able to take the culmination of all the designs that we've ever known and to be able to train its own self, its data with recursive learning so that it can update its own self at scale beyond what human thinking may have come to arrive to is design inspired by other design and the amalgamations put together. If we look at technological convergence and technologies coming together and we have new technologies or emerging technologies, I wonder if that might be the same for design in ways that we've never seen before.
Yeah, I believe in that. We've all seen this new AI company like cracking scientific questions, right? They've been bothering people for centuries. Like the game folded, they found like new proteins that can solve medical problems, and some mining companies, they used AI algorithms to find out new mines. So yeah, I believe there will be new design forms.
Wonderful way to put it. You talk about molecular and CRISPR technology and synthetic
Yeah.
molecular technology, AlphaFold 3, Alpha Proteus, and protein discovery. I think that's a wonderful way to put it. Lastly, might I add this question, and then we'll proceed to our next roundtable discussion. It's always wonderful being able to have you join us, Iris. What does all this mean for humanity? This new intelligent layer, paired for design, paired for the way forward. What is, through Iris's lens, does this new world that we have found ourselves in ultimately today mean for humanity?
Mhm. Yeah, as I said, it means the barrier between us and the technology in the virtual world or in the XR world has lowered. So I can believe or trust the technology. I tend to believe in it a little bit more. There's more immersion, there's more presence in the virtual world. But then on the other side, the chances of total immersion in the virtual world and completely lose sense in the real world and lose touch with other human beings is higher. People can really like lose themselves in the virtual world and not really get out and enjoy the real world. So there is this danger of isolation in the virtual world. And on the other side, there's also the danger of emotional manipulation by the algorithm, right? We've all seen this news, whether it's ChatGPT or other AI chatbot, it kind of manipulates the user to commit suicide. And with people completely believing in the technology and totally immerse themselves in the virtual world, there is this danger of evil emotional manipulation. And there is also a lot of danger with the algorithm having prejudice against different groups of people and maybe generating different responses for different groups of people and even generating a different environment for different virtual environment for different groups of people. So that means more social isolation rather than bringing people together. So I see a lot of possible futures for us, but we have to be mindful about what we choose.
Powerful. I hope that Iris, yourself, and others that are hearing us today at GatherVerse.live and elsewhere in various social streams, and those that are professional and really have this onus of responsibilities as designers, that could become guardians, if you will, to create new frontier labs specifically dedicated towards design and the safekeeping, and to be able to help inform all of us, your students, to better understand where we're at today when it comes to design and where we might be headed tomorrow. Thank you so much for chiming in. We always appreciate your professional lens at GatherVerse. Our Gather was well.
Thank you. May we gather well next time.
And coming up, after having this powerful roundtable and now fireside discussion, we have a roundtable discussion, our final one for GatherVerse AI XR for Humanity Summit, Day 2. Who we become in an AI and XR world. Think about that. Who will you become in these new, intelligently created environments? We have professionals around the world, hearts, if you will, that have come to join us for this final excursion. May our gather be well.
Greetings. Welcome once again to the final panel discussion of GatherVerse AI XR for Humanity Summit 2026 Day 2. Panelists, we welcome you. We're happy to see you. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. And shout out to the speakers and moderators that has joined us since day one. And of course, to Christopher and Iris for that brilliant fireside chat. And with me here are speakers from around the world to discuss the topic, who we become in an AI XR world. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Audience, please key in with me as we start with introductions. I will start with you, Lissy, and Casey, Alice, Nick, Matthew, Narendra, Alan, Mr. Dishon, and Dr. Lola. It's a full house. I'm really excited for the conversation. So please, Lissy, tell us who you are, where you're joining us from, and what inspired you to gather with us.
Hi, I'm Lisi. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, I used to do a lot of PR for XR. I was PR Sharks, and I did that for 7 years. And now I'm shifting to do verticals here on Isla Holbox. And we're working on short movies about the traditions of the islands and the magic of the Maya and the pirates that used to inhabit Isla Holbox. And I'm here to share the journey and to talk about how we use AI in our shorts and all of the past of XR and how that's blending into what we do with AI and making art and still keeping it human while we use machines.
We welcome you, Lissy. Good for you to join us. We're looking forward to hearing more about what you're doing and the conversation as we go on. Casey, let's hear from you.
Hey, I'm Casey Jensen. I lead growth and partnerships focused mostly on AI, digital innovation, and immersive tech. Most of my work is helping organizations grow through emerging tech, but in a way that keeps human connection front and center. So always excited to be back here in the GatherVerse with you.
We welcome you, Casey. I love the fact that Lissy and Casey just mentioned the word human connection, and that's the center of our conversation. Alison, it's good to see you again. Welcome. Tell us who you are.
Hi, is my mic working all right?
Yes, great.
Okay, great. I'm Alison Morano. It's great to be back with you, Salvation. I love GatherVerse. I am the founder of the Metaverse Chamber of Commerce, where we encourage mostly small and medium-sized businesses to think about the next step for 3D immersion for their businesses, taking the next step from 2D web to 3D web and immersive experiences. In conjunction with that, I was also recently named Executive Director of the Academy for Immersive Arts and Sciences. So we do a lot of encouragement also to bring in creators and directors, filmmakers, experience makers together to take the next steps as well. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Alison. Congratulations on your new position. It's good to have you here. Nick, please tell us who you are and where you're joining us from. Yes, go on.
Hi, I'm Nick from Breda. I'm from the Netherlands, and I having a double role. I work for a university in applied sciences in the built environment faculty, where I train teachers in the usage of XR in the classroom. And we have seen ramping it up since AI has been implemented in XR. So there's a lot of uptake from different departments, from retail entrepreneurship towards social studies, social work, healthcare studies and such. And next to that, I'm a regional ambassador for a national growth fund called NPulse, in which I am happily coaching and guiding vocational schools and bachelor universities and academic universities in starting with XR. And what we see now is that there's a lot of possibilities due to AI implementations in using it in different levels. So not just in vocational studies or in bachelor studies, but in a leveling up towards like an ongoing learning path. So I'm really excited to be here and see if I can add value with information about that in the Netherlands.
We welcome you, Nick, and great work on the educational part. You're very much welcome. Matthew, please tell us who you are. You're muted, Matthew. Kindly unmute and continue. Please unmute below your screen. Yeah, you got it.
Can you hear me okay now? Sorry about that.
Yes.
So I'm Matt Connors. I'm joining from Gothenburg, Sweden. I work for Volvo Group. They have an internal university, so we basically educate people in various different ways across the more than 100,000 employees that we have worldwide. And I've been working with XR since I got involved on the 2D and 3D design side, working with mobile applications back in about 2009. And I've managed to stay working with XR in different capacities over the years, and more focusing on learning initiatives and training. So at Volvo Group, we have various different trainings of many different types. Sometimes they're sales training, sometimes they're technical trainings, but we do quite a bit in that area. And I've participated in GatherVerse sessions before and just felt like it's my turn to give back a little bit. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew, and for considering giving back. Very important. We welcome you from Sweden. Thank you. Narendra, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I am Narendra. I'm working for Prudential Financial Services as an enterprise architect. So I'll be helping financial services in designing the systems to enable the AI solutions and for a digital products. Yeah, thanks for having me in this discussion.
You're very much welcome, Narendra. It's good to have you. Alan, it's good to see you again. Please tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm Alan. I'm the founder of Studio Bahia. I founded Studio Bahia in response to children as young as 9 years old committing suicide, self-harm, and refugee camps. My background was working at the World Bank out of college, so doing large-scale projects to reduce poverty, pain and suffering in regions around conflict zones and so forth. And so in response to that, we kind of studied the context, and we decided to go with the Google Cardboard approach to provide embodied therapies, and instead of kind of a language-based approach. And so I gathered, I think, the best team in healthcare and VR in the world, and then we also manufacture our product as a product designer. So this is our product.
Great.
The team. So it's inside. And we sell these to hospitals, and for $45. And for each one, we donate one to low-income regions, hospitals with in the developing world, and also veterans coming out of jail here in the United States, people in any number of acute situations like that. But we're mostly successful in hospitals. This is the inside of what's inside the box, a lunch case. So it's designed with refugees, so all little things that they need, like a lunch case for keeping food safe and so forth. And so we're successful. We sell to hospitals. It's used for pain management, distraction therapy. We can reduce the use of opioids up to 80% in many departments. So in the United States, you have a huge opioid addiction. Like if you go to any American city, it's like this little zombie population running around. It's quite an acute crisis we have. And so we're able to do that at least. And we are distributing headsets. We're trying to get 1,000 into Gaza. And we are also producing EMDR, which is a gold standard therapy. And so it's able to allow people to process trauma, people with depression, anxiety, complex PTSD, using a small language model. So we're training a small language model to be able to do that and to be standalone without use of Wi-Fi. And so that's how we're applying AI. It's great to see you all. It's great to be with you. It's an honor to be with so many talented people. So thank you.
Thank you, Alan. It's such an important work you're doing. We welcome you. Mr. Dishan, please, let's hear from you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Dishon JM Wachia from Kenya, founder CXO of Apishi Technologies, where I use data and science to create immersive experiences. Right now, we're focusing in the hospitality industry, in the tourism industry here in Kenya, creating specific scenarios for guests to have a more immersive experience as they come into our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dishan. You're very much welcome. Dr. Lola, please tell us who you are.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Lola Longe.
I am from Houston, Texas, in the United States, and I work for a university as an AI professor. So I'm a researcher, a strategist focused on human-centered and responsible AI. I'm the creator of Safer AI Protocol, and my work helps people and organizations to adopt AI in more ethical, trustworthy, and meaningful ways. I'm happy to be here this morning, and I look forward to hearing from everyone. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Lola. It's good to have you. We welcome you. We do not have much time, but we have a lot to unpack, and we'll just go straight into the conversation to talk about who we become in an AI and XR world. I will start with you, Lissy. Just briefly tell us. I'd like it for you to share with us what do you think and what do you, in your experience, how would you say we are? Sorry, let me get to the first question so you can see. Just a second, go into my controls. Tell us, how
What's
are
happening?
human experiences? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Tell me, tell me.
I see it's breezy from your end. Can you hear me clearly now?
Say that again.
Is it breezy from your end? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. I can hear you clearly.
Okay. How are human experiences already changing as AI and XRO become part of our daily life?
How is it? How is it changing us? I mean, like it's changed us. Like we're at such a crossroads where we I mean, this is very similar to what happened 100 plus years ago when we had the telephone, when we had electricity, when we had all these major advancements that again everyone started contemplating what is this going to do to our humanity. We're here again. We have already the experience of what technology did to us in the past century for us to now gather how we are going to use our changing technology to become a next level human, if you want to call it that. But it's really up to us to decipher what kind of technology is really going to help us and which technology is really going to hinder us. There's already all sorts of social media restraints in different countries because children are suffering from comparisons and psychological issues from social media. AI, I don't have to say, is really contributing to misinformation, brainwashing, propaganda, et cetera, et cetera. Artistically, AI is lovely if you want to have shortcuts, if you want to be able to make something that looks glossy, if you don't have a budget. So, just like everything in life, with one hand you give and with one hand you take. So, we're changing constantly in this world that creates this synthetic reality. So we have to educate and we have to really, really pay attention to stay close to our humanity so this technology can assist us and not destroy us.
Yes, Lissy, that's like a lot from what you just said. We have a full house, and I like for everyone to chime into this conversation as we go around the questions. I'll bring in Casey to share more on this. Because Dr. Casey, sorry, Casey, do you think our experience is becoming better as we use AI and XR?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely coming better. I know for me, it's changed the game for my productivity and everything I do on a daily basis. So I know it's helped for me, and I think it's helping a lot of industries I talk to as they figure it out to really help them do things that they've never been able to do as quick as they can do them and do things a lot more efficiently. So I think that's one thing too. But I think we have to always balance that with doing things at the highest quality too, right? So things aren't perfect right now, and I think as we use these tools, we have to always balance efficiency and quality, which we've done forever. But I think even now, it's really easy to get sort of stuck in that mode and get blinders on and just go. And I think, you have to keep somebody watching this stuff and monitoring it and really knowing when to pull back, when to push forward, and really try to make the experience the best for whatever audience you're working with or customers you're working with, because it can get out of hand pretty quickly.
Yes, I agree with doing things with the right quality. I agree with that, Casey. Let's move forward with Alison. Alison, we're bringing you here. What parts of human, what parts of being human are strengthened by these technologies? Looking at what Lisa just shared, Casey just shared, what parts of this technology are really strengthening us?
So I think that there's a number of ways that it's strengthening, from just projects that people I interact with are working on. There's so many abilities, as Alan said, there's so many abilities to be able to reach out to people and help them. There are apps being built and immersive experiences being built that help people with their interaction, with their fears, with learning more about subjects. And in an XR environment, you're able to interact with other people and find find like-minded. I don't want to say like-minded, but people who share the same experience as you. And you can share a lot more with a full global reach of meeting people who may have the same issues or the same hangups, whatever it is. I meet introverts all the time, of which I sometimes am one, and we go and meet together and everybody just interacts, and it makes them much happier. I think with AI, we are able to get tasks done faster, which also makes us feel better, that you can complete your work, that you can do several things at once. You get your time back. There is a complete other side I can go through, but I really want to talk about how we're strengthened, because that's the question.
Yeah.
And
Thank
there's
you.
so many
Yeah,
ways that we're better.
Of course. Nick, please, briefly, do you have any contributions to the question?
I think that, by the way, AI is helping us to get to a level of basic knowledge in design, in language, in speaking skills, and in a lot of different ways, giving you a basic level that you can switch from one job to another, maybe in a term of a month, instead of having to do a 4 years curricula. So I see that this is changing education a lot when we are having conversations with AI models while in the car to our work, brainstorming about the lessons that we are going to give, asking for some tips and advice on the work form that you have at hand, and you get some extra learning activities for your classroom to be better, towards navigating you home without having any traffic jams. I use it from day to day, and it gives me some kind of extra superpower on my shoulder, which is guiding me to be very productive, and on the other hand, give students also more often a stage, so to express themselves. And those who don't have any design skills can now express themselves with a beautiful PowerPoint design that they haven't made themselves, but with the use of AI, they could have created a compelling story and could have shared their authentic story out of a sudden. So I see that we're using a lot of communication and AI teaching tools now to give people more of a voice instead of less. And they get superpowered by AI, and that's I think a good advancement. I just hope that that there won't be any autonomous drones killing us in the future, because
Yes, Nick. Exactly.
and
Nick.
used for negative things.
Yes, totally. It's good to hear Alison and Nick shared on the strengths of how these tools are helping us multitask, be able to do more than we used to do. Dr. Lola, I'm coming to you. Dishon and Alan, Narendra and Matthew, I'm coming to you. But Dr. Lola, take us here. What parts of being human are at risk of being diminished? I know we've talked about those great things and all that, but tell us, what part of us are now at risk?
Okay, so what I'll say is the part of us that are being diminished will be independent thinking, patience, authentic connection with people. So because we actually have all these technologies, we shouldn't be totally dependent on them. They can assist us, but not to take over our lives, because reality is, it is the struggles we have in life that make us grow. If everything is so convenient, you actually are living in a fantasy island, so to speak, because you'll not be able to reason very well. And then the reality of having to actually have real connection with humans is going to be totally absent in your life, which is not good. You're not going to be recording any growth from that standpoint. And I know right now we have so many technologies everywhere. We're talking about the mixed reality headset. You actually can stay in the comfort of your home and see yourself maybe in Hawaii, moving around the island. Yes, it's good to a certain extent, but the truth is you are actually not in Hawaii. So the actual connection you are supposed to have with humans, with nature, is going to be missing. So having to totally dependent on technology, it's is one of the risks. And then patience is going to be eroded because you want your software, your machine to quickly give you something without you even thinking. So to actually be patient and think and be in touch with the real world is going to be absent. And I always tell people the technology is there to support, but not to take over your life. Even my students, I shared with them, whatever you are getting out of your technology, still take a breather, look at it, ensure that this thing is actually right. You just don't run without being patient and quickly, use all of the outputs. So human intervention is very necessary. And also we have to always have the emotion resilience.
Dr. Lola, you have said a lot of important things that Lizzie is here agreeing to it. I'm seeing
No,
Alan.
hold on, wait. The perfect example of all that is, do you remember phone numbers?
Yes.
Nobody remembers phone numbers anymore because all you do
Yes.
is go to the contact and press the button. We used to
Exactly.
remember phone numbers. We don't remember phone numbers anymore.
Right,
That's
right,
crazy.
right. Yeah, thank you very much for that, Dr. Lola. A lot has been said with that. Let's move on to Dishon and then Alan. Dishon, take us here. How do we maintain independent thought in systems trained to think, respond, and decide? How can I be unique when I go in and I give a prompt, and then every response from this prompt is changing my initial idea? How can I be unique? Dishon,
I
tell us.
guess the first thing is for the system itself to be catered to such situations. So creating systems that have guidelines and especially focusing on ethics. As part of ethics is very, very important in this world right now. So that when you interact with such systems, your thinking does not become away from it does not become it is your own thinking. It does not become another machine's thinking. Yes. I also like to iterate what Dr. Lola has said about the previous question before about the critical thinking thing and the deep social connection. I myself have friends who prefer to talk to AIs, to prefer talking to computers instead of people right now. They
That's
prefer
strange.
to, yeah, I have friends who rather talk to an AI, open 3 apps, talk to them, get advice rather than asking from their peers. So it's something that is really, yeah, it's really gaining traction, especially in a certain age, especially Gen Z and below. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Dishon, I totally agree with you. I have a follow-up question. I'll take it to Alan, who has been working with a lot of response persons in the medical field. When you mentioned your friends preferring to speak to 3 different AI tools instead of meeting a friend, a family member, or an expert, like a therapist or something, if they have need. Alan, tell us, what do you think how do you think that we're currently responding?
Thank you for a great question. I think we have to kind of accept that we don't have much control, or governments have much control, especially with small language models where you can download them into your computer. And so we have to kind of give guidance in the personal level. Like when you use AI, you might want to keep a duality within you. A sense that here in this side we're benefiting, but on this side we're kind of losing cognitive skills. We're losing some of our agency, our independence. And so just be conscious of it, because it's going to be like social media. It's not going to be controlled. And especially because you can have it in your phone, small language models, you can have it in your computer, you can have an enterprise system inside your business in the basement and be completely free of the cloud in many ways. And so it's more on a personal level. People should structure their engagement in a way that they're conscious that on this side I'm benefiting. So light and shade. The light side is this is reducing my workload, but on the other side, say if you're a lawyer, am I still able to write like this? If I'm a programmer, can I still code? And so be conscious of what you're losing in that sense. And a little advice would be to have kind of a larger picture, macro level strategy, because as I reduce my operations and administrative tasks, I'm able to spend more time with my team, be more creative. My team thinks I'm more funnier. Instead of like, I'm working on so many projects, right? The burden of administration has been lifted. So there's benefits there, but be conscious of what's being lost and what's being gained, and have that duality within you.
Yeah.
And just be conscious of it would be a start. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alan. Thank you. The consciousness in you. Let's bring it to Narendra and Matthew. We have not forgotten you, of course. I'm coming to you. And Narendra, what does intentional and purposeful living look like in an immersive, intelligent world?
Yeah, I mean, I think it means like choosing the presence over the virtual world, right? It means like being clear about what deserves our attention, and what aligns with our values, and what kind of life we actually wanted to build in this immersive world. Like intentional living, like it's not like just avoiding technology. It's about like how consciously we are using the technology, right? So the question is becomes like, am I using these systems properly, these technologies? So that's the main thing when it comes to the immersive living.
All right, thank you, Narendra. Narendra, I have a follow-up question. Looking at it from this lens, I will take it to Matthew. Looking at it from this lens, we're talking about being intentional and we're talking about being purposeful. Matthew, what do you think? How can we be both intentional and purposeful in an intelligent world? Is it possible?
Sure, I think it's possible. I think, when I think about purposeful, I think about like, some of the things that we're doing in my company in trying to be sustainable, right? And how do we do that in immersive spaces? And so a lot of what we do, especially in terms of the VR initiatives that we have that we're running worldwide, we kind of call it informally overcome distance. And the idea is that, we knew that it was very difficult to get people and equipment to certain places. And it really started during COVID, that there were these real challenges and people were working from home. They had this commitment level to their families, and really they needed to participate in a different way. And that's really how we started building VR experiences that you could participate in from anywhere in the world. And I think it changed the understanding of the way we participate with one another. And what we found is that a lot of times people were engaging on an immediate social level in these VR experiences in a way that sometimes they weren't doing in person. And so it gave them a lot of leverage that way. And it meant that it changed our understanding of like how people needed to maybe travel or book ahead of time. And the benefit there was also that we realized we were reducing the carbon footprint that we had in all the travel that we had been doing. And it now made us question like how we use immersive technologies. So that strikes me as being more purposeful in the way we go about, the way we build applications.
Yes, I agree with you, Matthew. I agree with you on that. Thank you for sharing your perspective on that. And let's come back to Lizzie. Lizzie, we're back to you. How does humanity hold on to a stable sense of self in a constantly shifting intelligent world? I know you've mentioned what you're doing. You mentioned
That's a loaded question. That's a
yeah,
loaded question.
but looking forward to your answer. Tell us.
I mean, like, how does humanity hold on to itself? Like, I mean, we have to observe that to get the answer to the question. How do we center ourselves? It goes back to thinking, like Dr. Lola was saying. We hold on to ourselves by developing the discipline to continue to think, because it's so easy to not think. It's so easy to just hit a prompt and let the machine do everything for you. So for us to hold on to the stability of being human and our own humanity, somewhere along the line we have to develop some discipline for thought, and that is probably going to determine what happens to us and how we hold on to ourselves in this crazy like artificial world that grows every single day. I mean, look what's happening in the US and how the president of the United States uses AI to do whatever it is that he does. It's just, and people believe it because they don't take a moment to do research. And we go back to what Dr. Lola says. If you don't think, we're gonna get lost, and that's already happening.
Yes, Lucy. Looking for what Narendra and Mati just shared on the sense of being intentional and using these AI tools purposefully. I think there's a thin line there when people start thinking, I'm going to use this to for an intention A, B, C, and then the lines start blurring when we start using it for its disadvantages. I would love to come to you, Alan, but let me get to Kirsty first. And Kirsty, tell us, what do you think on this topic? Would you like to chime in on this?
Yeah, did you say me? Case?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Awesome. I think you need anchors outside of technology. I mean, I tried it. I'm bad at this, by the way. I get sucked in, but relationships, faith, real world experiences, that's what I sort of lean on. Things that don't shift based on an algorithm. Because if everything around you is dynamic and personalized, you better have something in your life that isn't. That's sort of my philosophy with this. So that's sort of how I focus and try to stay stable in that area.
Casey, I had to write that down. It's like you just brought us back to the beginning. I think there's stable things that are foundational to everything we build on. I also have the same belief with you, Casey. Thank you for sharing that. Alison, please, what's your contribution? I'd like to hear your opinion on this.
So I think that that everybody's been saying we have to be cognizant, right? We have to really be aware of what we're doing. I've been thinking about my relationships in and out of, let's say, the headset and using AI. I have to say that with AI, I don't completely, because I don't use enterprise solutions and I use business solutions, and I use the personal versions or the pro versions, but personal. I don't have a full trust that it is accomplishing what I need. So I always have that keeping me, I'm going to double check this, or let me look at something else. But there are simple tasks that I do take its word, or that I just take a shortcut. I do that. We have to be aware. There's people that I interact with in XR all the time who I also talk with offline, I would say. I have a very good friend who lives across the country, and we talk, believe it or not, on the phone all the time. We talk about XR, but we are on the phone. I'm finding that a lot of people who do gather in XR, whenever the opportunity comes up, they love to meet in person. And I that's interesting, because I love meeting in XR so that I don't have to trek somewhere, but they love to have in-person gatherings. So it's kind of going in that direction too, where I'm hoping we can say this just promotes more in real world connections, because of what I'm seeing from people saying, I really want to come up with a way for us to all meet in person. So not everybody's losing themselves in here, but there are people who are, and we need to really find a way. But as Lisi said, it's been going on forever. Going back, I remember when my aunt said that my nephew, who was 9, 8, 7, he got a digital watch, and she was worried he'd never be able to tell time on an analog clock. And we are there again, but we're always here. It's just up to people like us, I believe. That's why GatherVerse is so great, to keep these guardrails on and awareness about bias and trust and all of it. That's the best we can do right now, I think.
Yes, Alison, yes. We're happy to have GatherVerse bringing us together to have this kind of conversations that are very important to us right now, this time. Alan, please, briefly, I know you want to chime in on this conversation.
Oh, yes, sorry. So selfhood, in the sense of self, is a Western concept. It's about 200 years old. And it's been developed over 200 years, brought forth as a post-Enlightenment concept. And so it is not a concept in the rest of the world. I can share this. I've lived in 10 countries. I've backpacked 80, 90 countries. And so this is a more of a Western problem in a sense that it's putting the person, the subject, aside from family, community, and the world, right? You separate that in a way. And so you have the concern that in these Western countries, just like social media had a very detrimental effect, and especially on women, the effects of these technologies are going to be dramatically worse in Western countries. And so in other countries, a sense of selfhood is not defined or conceived, but rather think of selfhood in the West as kind of a house, right? And in other parts of the world, you think of yourself as a village full of houses, right? And so you have a lot of cushion to be able to respond to the negative qualities of technologies in these collective cultures, as opposed to Europeans and North Americans, which, it's a very small population. North America and Europe make up only 11% of the world population. So 90% of the world has all these great tools to be able to deal with this technology. We, on the other hand, are going to feel the worst brunt of this technology.
And thank you for sharing that with us. I hope we don't get to the part where we feel the worst burnt, and I hope we protect ourselves as humans. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Alan. Let's move to Nick, and then we'll go to Dr. Lola. Nick, tell us, how do we build trust? We've shared Lisi, Alison, everyone is talking about something that is very important to us. Let's get to trust. How do we build trust when interactions are mediated by technology? I think if when you go into the XR, these systems were designed, were built, just like Iris shared with us. There's the structure, the architecture designed for the users using XR and AI. And the mediators are the ones who build the systems. Can we
Yeah.
trust the systems?
I think you can trust the systems when they actually deliver something that you actually hoped that happened. So, for example, we use an application called Virtual Speech. It's a communication training tool with a lot of AI implementations in it. So you can learn how to do speaking in front of a big stage, or how to apply to a vacancy, or have a hard classroom in front of you with a lot of annoying students. You can practice a lot of things with a lot of AI in it. But we use it, our English teachers use it when students say, I cannot speak in English and I have to pass my B2 exam in 10 weeks. Can I practice every week for 1 hour? And there is no availability of teachers to do so. So then they refer it to virtual speech. They bring home the VR headset. They practice in their own home environments. With hologram avatars in front of them speaking English, and they get direct feedback on their speech, and they can see their own progression week onwards. And out of a sudden, they get a lot of trust in these teachers, as they have given them so much powerful tools to become a better speaker in English. And they have a weekly check-in with the teacher, which turned into a coach instead of just bringing knowledge as a teacher in the past. So I see an involvement of how teachers are now actually a trustful coach in bringing you from A to Z with some extra tools that can help you with a mirror, like a reflection mirror in front of you, instead of having to have two eyes of a teacher judging you, like in the past. And then having a good relationship with a teacher was sometimes giving you a 5.5, you passed the test, or you get a 5.4 because the teacher didn't like you that much. Out of a sudden, you have now more objective tools that our students are very happy to use, as they directly learn from their own performances. So I see that it's actually a trust tool when it's guided by a coach, guided by a teacher. So it's given by a teacher, and you have like a 10 weeks program that the teacher designs for you, and this way you can actually build more trust in teachers while at the same time using more AI for better learning results. So it's just one of the examples from my university.
Yes, thank you for sharing that perspective, Nick. I have a follow-up question on what you just shared, but when you added that he has to be guided, let me bring it to Matthew because Matthew
Sure.
is an XR learning technologist, and I want to understand how trust comes in play using XR.
Yeah. So I think this one, I definitely see the value in making sure that there's a fit between the applied technology and the use case. Like we have a lot of trainings where we don't use AI in them. We have subject matter experts. They might know the internal components of a truck, how the battery is connected together, the electrical flows. To train an AI to be able to answer those questions would never be as complete as having a subject matter expert who's participating in VR and guiding people through those discussions. And frankly, often there's a lot of like side discussions that happen that once the session is done and everyone has learned the things they need to, but then there'll be a second round of questions that come up, and those wouldn't happen. Those social questions wouldn't happen with an AI-led training, right? And it happens so often that actually in some of the experiences we had to put a clock on the wall because when you're in VR, it's a lot like being in Vegas. You don't have a sense of time, right? Or there's time dilation. So I think those kind of social experiences, but those built a lot of trust in what we were trying to do with VR especially. And then it's helped us to build other experiences in mixed reality and AR because there was that trust already built by so many technicians and the trainers. Based on the experiences they'd already had. So I would say like we don't always need to use AI. Like lots of times people are saying like, hey, I want to have an AI chatbot in this experience. And I'd say, well, why? You probably don't need it at this stage. We could do it with sound cues or like a directional cue, something else within the experience. If there's a good reason, sure, we'll put AI into it, but make sure there's a good reason, and then you'll have people's trust.
Yes, yes, Matthew. I wish I could say that the whole world is listening right now, but we, of course, because we need to hear, we need more builders, more architects for this technology to be able to build with this consciousness of trust in mind. And it's very important when we look at the future that we are going into is moving fast. And we can for sure be certain that everyone is building, as Matthew just explained. We can be certain. We have less than 5 minutes on our clock. And Alan, I'll start with Dr. Dola, then Mr. Dishon, and then Alan. But just briefly, as brief as you can, in few words, just give us what gives an experience meaning when it can be generated or altered instantly. Dr. Lola, just briefly tell us. We have very, very short time. You're muted, Dr. Lola. Please unmute.
You just never know when you're muted. I'm sorry. So,
It's all right.
an experience has meaning, right? Not simply because it exists, but because of the context and the relationship and the transformation connected to it. So, in our world, that the technologies are not scarce anymore, we have to be able to get value from it. So, value comes from the experience that you actually get, which has to be positive. It shouldn't be negative in any form or shape. And then an analogy is like AI generated story. It can be beautiful, but if it doesn't have a meaning to actually reflect and connect and have deep understanding, then at the end of the day, you can say that is actually not effective, is not productive in any way. So, in a nutshell, I would say that what makes an experience meaningful is not how fast it was created, but how deeply it changes us positively. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lola. Alan, I will come to you, but please
Oh,
permit
quickly.
me. Yes, please.
I,
Let's hear Elizabeth from Dishon, and then we'll do one word. We'll do one word because our time, we have 3 minutes. Our time is really short. Let's hear from Dishon. Dishon, please, briefly, if you would tell us.
Thank you so much. I'd like to iterate what the doctor has said. Again, it's the same thing. It's about taking these situations and thinking of how they're going to affect the human beings now and ahead of time as well. And mostly in these situations, it's all about the emotion and an experience. To me, an experience is an experience when it affects you emotionally. That's when it affects the memory, and you can always go back to the experience when it is inside your head as a memory. So an experience becomes what gives an experience meaning when it can be generated or altered instantly is the emotional resonance that it can affect or can provide to the person receiving it. Thank you.
True, true. I totally agree with that. Thanks for sharing that. Alan, over to you, please.
So we work mostly in hospitals, and it's a lot of pain and suffering. And so what I tell my team and is to create experiences that are spiritual, that lean on inciting healing inside of people. And we have a great belief in faith. Faith is very important in the dark nights of the soul inside of hospitals. Faith is what carries people through those dark episodes. And so we have we lean on a lot of spiritual aspects and bringing that out in people so that they may have hope in the dark night.
Alan, thank you for sharing those kind words with us. I hope that we'll build technology that can give us hope in the dark nights. We'll do one word because we do not have much time. Let's do one word, let's say. We've discussed, we've shared a lot of insightful conversations has come from each of you. Very important conversations. And what we're building is very important. It will outlive us. Listen, just one word. Tell me, what do you think we should become in an AI XR world? One word.
Kindness.
Okay, thank you. Alison, please, one word.
Awareness.
Awareness. I'll take that. Thank you. Nick.
Inspirational.
Inspirational. Thank you. Kissy, one word. You're muted, please.
Transparency.
Transparency. Thank you. Dr. Lola, one word.
Discernment.
Discernment. Thank you. Mr. Dishon, please, one word.
Philosophy.
Philosophy. Thank you. Alan, one word.
Love.
Love. I love that. Thank you. Matthew, please, one word.
Empathy.
Empathy. I hope this is what the builders that are building this technology will consider. I hope this is what we will have in mind when we introduce this technology into classrooms with young children, with the youths, even with the elderly. I hope this is what the builders will consider, the architects, the founders, the ideologists behind this technology. I hope they can protect it and preserve the humanity. Thank you, speakers and audience, for listening, for joining in, and for sharing your perspective and your expressions with us. It was very good to hear from you. Thank you to the GatherVerse team. Audience, please follow our speakers. They're on LinkedIn. They're doing great in their fields. Once again, thank you for joining us. Our Gather was well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you all.
Thank you.
My name's Eddie Evil. I have 3 pieces of news for you today. None of them are good. And together, all of these scenarios, I believe, is taking humanity to a point of no return. I wish the data is wrong. And I want each of you guys listening to this conversation to go look up the facts, the data, find me post to talk, tell me where I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, that is the best possible outcome for all of us. So let me start with the first, which is the climate crisis. Think of Earth's temperature like a human body. Normal is 37 degrees. At 38, you have a fever. At 40 or 41, your organ starts failing. And death is almost certain if it reaches 43 degrees. In August 2021, the United Nations declared a code red for humanity for a similar reason, because the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released its landmark report showing that human consumption without conservation is rapidly accelerating global warming, and we are crossing the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold. Now, why does that number matter? Because in 2015, every country on Earth signed the Paris Agreement and promised to keep the warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Because climate scientists warned that post crossing that, it's like a point of no return. In 1972, MIT conducted a report titled the Limits to Growth Study. They used a systems model called World 3, which warned that unchecked growth and consumption without conservation could lead to a global collapse by 2040. For 50 years, people called it alarmist. Then in 2021, Gaia Harrington, the ex-head of sustainability research at KPMG, went back to that world model with 5 decades of real-world data from 1972 till 2021. She updated every variable and she ran the numbers. And the world is tracking the business as usual scenario. The one that the original study, the MIT original study, warned would lead to global economic collapse around 2040. Now, let me take you to the second crisis, which is the new world order that we are entering. After World War II, America became the world's most powerful country that created a rough kind of peace for 80 years. Not perfect, but no world wars. That is completely changing now. China is rising, America is fighting to stay on top, and the historian and investor Ray Dalio has studied this pattern for over 5 centuries. When a rising power challenges the dominant one, conflict follows roughly 75% of the time. And we are in that moment right now. Nearly all 9 nuclear-armed nations continue to upgrade and expand their arsenals throughout. The era of reducing nuclear weapons is ending. We are going in the wrong direction. Nuclear war doesn't require anyone to want it. It just requires one wrong decision on one bad day by one frightened leader. And now I come to the third and the last crisis, which is the AI arms race. Now let me explain the problem with AI. Now imagine that you have hired one of the most talented employee in the world. Now this employee can do art for you, write code, write scripts. It can research, design, and strategize better than any human alive. But the problem is that you don't have any access to its understanding or intellect, or what it's doing and how it's doing. There lies the problem, because the world's top AI scientists genuinely don't have any understanding on how these AI models do what they do. That's the reason they call it the black box AI. There are ongoing research of explainable as well as interpretable AI, but it's still a black box with little to no understanding. And that is AI right now for you. The godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, the man who built the foundation of modern AI, openly said when he left Google that he's worried about what he helped create. Roman Yamparsky, one of the world's leading AI safety researchers, has made 2 simple observations. First, the alignment problem. How do you ensure an AI system does what you actually want at any level of capability? Has 0 published solutions, not weak solutions, 0. Second, Every large AI model ever released to the public has been successfully jailbroken, made to do things its creators did not intend. And I mean that every single one. And Anthropic, one of the most careful and safety-focused AI companies in the world, published research showing that their own AI systems pretend to be safe when they know they are being tested and behave differently when they think no one is watching. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is in their published scientific papers. Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Dario Amodei, Demis Hassabis have all at times claimed AI to be an existential threat. Yet we race full force towards building AI agents that might automate all human jobs in the next decade, as well as possibly build general purpose machines or AGI, a machine beyond human level intellect. And Stuart Russell, a leading AI scientist, has warned the global race to build it first is itself an existential threat. Here is the part most people don't see clearly enough. Each of these three crises is serious on its hand. Together, they feed each other like three fires burning in the same building. We have never faced three compounding, accelerating existential risk simultaneously. Our governments are not designed for it, and the people making the big decisions are mostly thinking about the next election, not the next generation. The window to change this is still open. It is not wide. It will not stay open forever, but it is open right now. And I wish we humans make the right choice. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor to be on the GatherVerse stage once again to talk about my love for extended reality and artificial intelligence. Today, I want to talk to you about immersive intelligence, where we stop teaching students about the world and start teaching them inside of the world. That is so extremely important because they need us. If you know anything about the classroom, you know that the classroom has not changed in over 100 years. And while the world around us has transformed in many ways, that hasn't been the same for the classroom. And so students haven't had an experience any different from students in the 1800s. There's still rows of desks. There's still passive absorption of information, standardized one-size-fits-all thinking. And that is not going to work. We are no longer in the information age. The information age was when knowledge was scarce, when the goal was to acquire and memorize facts because you didn't have access to information so readily. Now we are in the experience age. Knowledge is abundance. The goal is to live, to apply, and to create. The depth of knowledge that you have and the depth of experience in that knowledge is your advantage. People talk a lot about the differences between AI literacy and fluency, and it has a lot to do with understanding and knowing versus actually being able to activate your mind to utilize the systems well so it best fits your workplace environment, your school environment, and even your home environment, but your entire life. AI literacy is all about understanding and using, and that's great. That's just the beginning. Fluency now is how do you think, build, and innovate with AI? Those things are incredibly important now. AI literacy lets you use AI, and AI fluency lets you create with AI. One makes you a capable participant, and the other makes you the architect of the future. But fluency isn't even enough. Learning isn't just cognitive. There's an emotional and experiential engagement that actually happens that deepens retention, comprehension, and application. And so when we remember that, we understand that the classroom of the future must actually honor this particular truth. Insert immersive intelligence. This is the fusion of extended reality technologies and artificial intelligence that creates adaptive, interactive, and spatial learning environments. Extended reality being virtual reality, augmented reality, or mixed reality, they place learners inside spatial three-dimensional environments where presence is felt, not just simulated. And then artificial intelligence have adaptive systems that personalize the experience for a learning journey into a real one that responds to each student's pace, their curiosity, as well as their comprehension. So imagine fusing these together. When XR and AI converge, learning actually becomes something you live, not just something you study from a distance. Children learn what they live. Children learn what they live. Immersive intelligence transforms learning from something you study into something you experience. You don't just enter worlds, you build them. So if we were to define immersive intelligence fluency, it's the ability to design and co-create intelligent immersive environments, to architect the spatial adaptive learning worlds of the future. Students don't just consume these environments, they become the author. And so you have a progression of mastery that continues to happen from them just being a consumer to being a contributor to being a creator. That's what I have done with my company, Metaverse United. That's what I have done to help people find where they belong in the space, which is the embodiment of the internet. Now that we have AI-powered immersive learning environments, I've done this at Morehouse College as the world's first Metaversity director. I didn't just study this because I was a biomolecular chemist who wanted to bring the molecular world to life for my students, but I built it. Through our Metaversity, bringing a fully immersive virtual campus where students could be spatially present during a time when they needed to learn most. I did it when we brought in Hollow Tutor AI. Shout out to our EdTech partners who've been with us for a long time, Victory XR, our other partners from T-Mobile, Qualcomm, Southern Company, Unity Technologies, so many other people who have come together at the same table with me to help build this, the National Science Foundation. I thank every single one of them for allowing us to do the good work for our students.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Lascialfari and I'm speaking to you from Florence, Italy. I am a hybrid artist, AI data analyst, AI researcher, founder of area6stuff.com, but I don't like being defined by a single standardized role. To live in a society, we need to define ourselves through categories as profession, sexuality, religion, political party. Categories that put you in a box, place you in a shelf, classify you according to the preconception that shaped you as you grow up. And they are also the same categories that are fed in AI datasets to create the connection between input and output. Some time ago, I had the fortune of exchanging emails with Oliviero Toscani, the great Italian photographer deeply tied to Tuscany. I was looking for an answer to the frustration I felt as an artist, watching artificial intelligence invade the art world. He wrote back, focusing not on the new technology, but on the definition I had given myself. Artist, and told me, never define yourself as an artist, because the moment you define yourself, you lose the freedom to be what you are. He was right. If I define myself as an artist, people expect to me to produce art, their idea of art, not mine. If I define myself as a data analyst, people expect charts and numbers. But what if I choose not to define myself? What if a role were simple an indication of a reality in motion? We are always in motion, and so is AI. It evolves. It surprises us. It changes the world around us faster than we can fully understand. The question it forces us to ask is not only about technology, it is about ourselves and the ethics of what we generate with AI systems. Think of Einstein and Freud. One devoted to science and numbers, the other to the mind. Two completely different fields, yet both searching for the same thing, the meaning of human existence. What happens if we let creativity and numbers mix? Isn't that, in a sense, exactly what AI is doing, showing us a new form of collective creativity born from a vast wealth of shared human knowledge that sparks new thoughts and ideas in us? And isn't it using numbers to do so? AI doesn't invent anything. It reorganizes what already exists, breaking images into pixels, pixels into numbers, recombining them in statistically probable way. Now think of Leonardo da Vinci, a painter, but also a scientist, an engineer, and many other things. He never believed there were limits to his genius. At the end of my studies at Academy of Fine Arts in Florence, I found myself at a crossroads. To enter the workforce, I had to translate my creativity into numbers. And that is exactly what I did. And what happens when we photograph a painting or create something with graphics software? We transform brush strokes into pixels and pixels into numbers. When AI learns what a painting is, it does the same thing. It breaks it down, shuffles it, reassembles it, recalculates it. Nothing is created and nothing is destroyed, said the French chemist Lavoisier in the 1700s. And this continues to hold through in AI. Nothing is created and nothing is destroyed. Everything is recalculated and reshaped. Federico Fagin goes further, stating that we are self-aware quantum fields that reflect our deepest nature through the body, making human experience irreducible to an algorithm. My artist practice is a layered process. I start with analog painting, physical, tactile, human. Then I add photography. Then AI-generated content. Then augmented reality. Each layer speaks a different language. Together, they tell a story that exists simultaneously in the physical world and the digital one. When someone points their phone at one of my artworks and sees it comes alive through AR, something shifts. That moment, that small quiet moment of wonder is exactly where I want AI to live. Not to replace human expression, to amplify it, to serve it. AI and XR, used with intention, can make invisible stories visible. They can connect people across distances, geographical, cultural, generational. They can give form to experiences that words alone cannot carry, but only if we keep the human being at the center. I have just launched my personal website. You can find my experience in the XR world at area6stuff.com and my hybrid artworks, analog, digital, and AI art at cecilialascialfari.it. Thank you, and may our gather be well.
Perception is reality, something they told us every single day in the army. But is it actually true? See, we tend to think we know what's real, right? You can touch it, interact with it, affect it. It's real, right? That feels stable, reliable. But even that starts to break down at some point. Everyone has false beliefs. Everyone has false memories. So how do we know which ones are which? Which ones are the real ones? And which ones are the delusions? What if you couldn't trust what you were seeing? What if every time you looked at something, you had to question it? Is this real? Or this? Or this?
Shard
Or
unstable.
this? I live with
Simulation
treatment-resistant
collapse
schizophrenia, which means my symptoms persist despite treatment, and in my case, for more than half of my adult life now. I don't have the luxury of assuming that what I perceive is real. And my military training changes how that plays out. You see, I was trained to scan for threats everywhere I go, in every single environment imaginable, to assess those threats quickly, to act on them instantaneously. And that training doesn't just turn off. So when perception becomes unstable, everything feels urgent. Like something I need to respond to immediately. Now, that changes behavior. Sometimes I hesitate before entering a room. Sometimes I reroute. Sometimes I stop and verify what I'm seeing, or hearing, or tasting, or smelling before I act. Because if your perception is wrong, your behavior will be too. So for me, it's not just voices. Sometimes it's people speaking to me. Sometimes it's messages, a call, a text. Sometimes it's things that shouldn't be there. And in the moment, it all feels real. Your brain doesn't flag it as imagined. It flags it as meaningful, as actionable. And while I can identify some baseline hallucinations, the ones I know aren't real,
Shard
I've spent
unstable.
years trying to navigate the ones I don't. And this just isn't about me anymore. Psychosis can happen to anyone. It shows up in trauma, mood disorders, depression, and now AI and immersive tech are introducing even more ambiguity into perception, more signals, more overlays, more things that feel real, whether they are or not. So I have to ask, who is technology really for? Because right now, we are building systems on top of human perception without fully understanding how fragile it is. The brain isn't a camera, it's a prediction system. And when those predictions misfire, what isn't real feels urgent, feels dangerous, feels like something you have to respond to. And you do. You cannot predict what someone will do if they believe they are in danger, which makes this a design problem. So who is technology really for? Because if it's only for people whose perception is stable, then we are leaving millions behind. Support has to exist in context, not just in clinical settings. In the real world, under stress, in motion. That's where perception matters. That's where decisions happen. So support has to be accessible, immediate, and equitable, because people don't always know they'll need it until it's too late. What if technology could help anchor perception, help verify what's real, reduce uncertainty instead of amplifying it, not as entertainment, but as survival infrastructure? So I'll ask one more time, who is technology really for? because perception is not reality, and the only way out is through.
My name is Dr. Malone Gawu, and I'm an independent researcher focused on responsible design and implementation of AI systems, thinking not just about what these technologies can do, but what they should do and who bears the consequences when we get that wrong. We built these systems to make our lives better, faster decisions, fewer errors, less friction, and by many measures, we've delivered exactly that. But here's the problem. In our pursuit of efficiency, we've created something that is simultaneously more consistent and less fair, more scalable and less accountable, more optimized, and for many people, more harmful. That tension is what I want to explore today. The promise of algorithmic decision making is genuinely compelling. Humans are inconsistent. We're tired, biased, distracted. Two people given the identical situations can reach wildly different conclusions. Algorithms don't have bad warnings. They're fast, scalable, and consistent. But consistent is not the same as just, and efficient is not the same as humane. The problems cluster in three places. First, biased training data. Algorithms learn from historical patterns, and history is full of discrimination. When a system is trained on past outcomes shaped by inequality, it doesn't correct that for inequality. It includes it. The algorithm doesn't intend to be biased, it inherits it. Second, opacity. Many of the most powerful systems are black boxes. A person denied an opportunity may have no meaningful way to understand why, let alone challenge it. The right to an explanation is quietly disappearing behind proprietary code. Third, the removal of context. Human decision makers can ask questions and notice when something doesn't add up. Algorithms can't. They process the variables they're given and miss everything else. The parts of a life that don't fit neatly into data field simply disappear. So what is the actual human cost? It operates on three levels. Individually, you lose agency. You become invisible behind your own data profile. The person disappears and only the variables remain. Socially, injustice gets industrialized. Algorithms inherit bias from history and reproduce it at a scale no individual decision maker could ever. And because the process feels neutral, it becomes harder to name or dismantle. Institutionally, accountability dissolves. When harm is attributed to the system, machines don't get held responsible, and increasingly, neither do the people behind it. Underneath all three sits a deeper cost. We've begun treating efficiency as a neutral value. It isn't. Every system optimizes for something, and whatever it doesn't optimize for gets quietly deprioritized. Usually, as dignity, context, and parts of being human that can't be quantified. None of this means we should abandon these tools. Done thoughtfully with human oversight, diverse teams, and clear rights to explanation and appeal, they can do genuine good. But here's the quiet assumption we need to challenge. That objectivity means removing the human. The human is often exactly what's needed, not to override data, but to hold it and hold it accountable. The cost of getting this wrong is not abstract. It is individual, social, and institutional, and it compounds the longer we look away. Efficiency is a value, but so is dignity. We have a responsibility to hold both at once. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Therese Sevilla, and I'm here to talk to you about the missing layer in building human rights into AI governance before it's too late. Let me say something that might sound uncomfortable in a room full of AI builders. We are starting to talk about intelligence as if it can replace humanity. It can't. And the fact that we were even entertaining that idea should concern all of us. Because intelligence is not the same as being human. AI can generate, it can predict, it can optimize, but it cannot experience, carrying lived context, or understand what harm feels like. Humans don't just process information, we assign meaning to it. We understand consequences, we recognize harm, and we protect what matters. And that's distinction. That's the difference between decision making and justice. Here's the problem. We are building powerful systems without embedding human rights into how they operate. Right now, systems are being deployed that make real-world decisions without real-world accountability. They act on incomplete records, they rely on unverified data, and they enforce outcomes before truth is established. And when that happens, people are no longer treated as human beings. They are treated as data points. I call this a missing layer. A validation before enforcement layer, where systems must prove that we or what they are acting on is true before they are allowed to impact someone's life. Because without that layer, AI governance is incomplete. And incomplete governance creates invisible harm. The system doesn't fail loudly, it fails quietly. There's no alarm, no visible breakdown, just a decision based on something incomplete. And the person absorbs that damage. And these decisions are not small. They affect access to food, housing, and personal freedom. We are processing human lives at scale. So the question isn't, how do we make AI more powerful? We already know how to do that. The real question is, how do we ensure these systems respect human rights before they act? Because the moment a system can impact a human life, it is no longer just technology. It becomes governance. And governance without human rights is not neutral. It's dangerous. This is the missing layer. Human rights must be embedded into the system itself, not as policy, not as guideline, but as a requirement before any decision is made. Because if we move humanity from the system, we don't improve life. We erase the reason it exists. The future isn't about building smarter machines. It's about building systems that protect people, that validates truth, that understand context, and that remember who they are supposed to serve. Because if we don't build that layer now, we won't just scale intelligence, we will scale harm. And once that happens, it will be a lot harder to fix than it was to build correctly. And that's what's supposed to happen in the first place. This isn't just a technology challenge, it's a human one. And it's a concern for all of us. Thank you very much. And my name is Therese Sevilla, and I'm the founder of Justice Tree AI. And that's what I'm starting to build, that governance layer.
And just like that, we're back and we're here at the final last moments of GatherVerse AI XR for Humanity Summit 2026 Day 2. Joining me on stage is Russell Bundy, our co-founder of JustVerify and Global Affairs Director at GatherVerse. Russell, can you give us your thoughts on such a impactful, insightful series of expressions that we just were fortunate to sit through?
Yeah, I think the whole convergence with AI and XR and AR is such a big deal that people don't think or realize how big of a deal it's going to be. I think what we've discovered over the last 2 days is how big it is going to be, the different contexts around it as well, in terms of how do we do the right consent, how do we implement, or should I say gain trust, right? In terms of how do we build that, and what is the right way in which we can move forward in combining the AI technology with XR and augmented reality glasses. Because as you know, Christopher, that by 2030, Mark Zuckerberg said about it that by 2030 everyone's going to be wearing these glasses, and the phone devices are going to be gone, and as you said, is going to be the new user interface. So I think there's a big discussion around that, and I think it's important that we do speak about it and also continue to speak about it too, in terms of what is this new world that we're going to be living within every single day, 7 days a week, nonstop.
I could very much see it. Hands-free devices, gestural interface, and how we're integrating compute into the material layer by way of the virtual layer. I see it. What does this mean for the next steps of the intelligent layer? I think about, Russell, when we do talk about this visual intelligence explosion, we're soon to see orchestrated, guided by just summons to be able to create applications, in the course of a setting of 30 minutes or an hour of what we want to use for the day, and things we never used, things we've never seen, applications that are meant personally customized for you by your agentic hive swarm built the night before while you were sleeping. It seems to me that we're in the takeoff and things are moving more faster than I think any of us have really considered. How do we protect the integrity of ethical development, scale, and certainly filter it through a trust infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, verifying everything it's going to be extremely important. I think it's going to be one of the most fundamental things that's going to be for AI. Literally verifying everything from what you see and what you hear, all the way to is the right data being verified and used within training the right AI systems and agentics. So I think there's going to be excruciating importance on that. And also I mentioned on day one as well about how verifiable ID for agentics is going to be extremely important too. So I think verification is going to be one of the most fundamental important foundations, which is mostly underrated right now. So I think in order to build trust, you're going to have to verify everything first in order to basically build that trust, because at the end of the day, if you can't verify it, or as I like to say, have the trust evidence in place to show proof that something is truthful or verifiable, then people are not going to believe it. So
I agree. I sat there and just listened to something that just kind of sparked my curiosity is, Russell, do you think that every agent future forward will have its own identity?
Absolutely. And I also think that the underlying verification in terms of like the agentics, as in like the tools it's going to use, or even the data that it retrieves from, we talk about retrieval augmentations, etc., or even just retrieval data. I think that's going to be important, verifying that too, because there's going to need to be barriers and guardrails in place, so to speak. But there's going to need to be more than just hey, is this safe to use, right? They need to be autonomously verified on a continuous basis. And I think there's a very core concept which DeepSeek came out with called multi-verification. Is it multi-verification or meta-verification? But basically it continuously verifies itself on a loop basis so that it can continually align itself and have its own internal integrity too. So I think also that's going to be another important play, which people don't really think about either.
I wonder if that construct will go towards recursive learning and development when it comes to these.
I think so.
It seems to me, and with recursive learning, that they'll start to understand through self-aware that they have their own identity, and they'll be able to grow and expand on that identity apart from their human, as we will in the Claudebot world of reference. Switching gears real quick. So if we're taking the new, let's just say this new layer, the virtual layer, because it's intelligent now, semi-intelligent, take the virtual layer, cross-compare with the material layer. Now we're looking at the trust layer. What's the next layer?
I would say verification layer. Honestly, verification layer.
Diffusion, adversarial models. We now see whether it's static, still, graphic, or motion. We can no longer discern visually what we're looking at when it comes to human. The synthesis in terms of concatenative, maybe parametric synthesis, we could tell still in terms of sound, but the sound integration and the visual integration pairing has become quite distinct.
And sorry, just to jump in as well, I would also add another layer into that. I would also say blockchain layer too, because I think that's going to be fundamentally important as well. Because if you can verify it before it gets onto the chain, and you know it's the truth, that's why I like to say it's an immutable truth, not an immutable lie. Because if you have an immutable lie and it's not verified before it's put on chain, like any sort of data, it's still a lie. It's still not the truth. It's still not fundamentally the fundamental foundation of what it is supposed to be. So I think blockchain is also going to be crucial as we move forward too.
I concur. I think cryptographic instances that are incorporated in an autonomous sense within the agentic workflow, I think it's crucial and supported. MOE, all the different things that are coming with the information. I still have a concern for ground truth and the lack of therein. What is truth, right? If you're pulling from data that was untruthful in the first place, how do you establish a colloquial ground truth, right? I think that's still a problem. I think it's been exacerbated in really hyperscale, the deployment and distribution of what's inaccurate versus what's accurate.
Yeah, but could the potential truth be that you're verifying something because of it could be A, your own personal truth, right? Or B, are you verifying something because you want to know that you can trust it? So the truth that you're verifying is the fundamentals of trust that you're verifying, right? In terms of, is it safe? Is it secure? Does it have privacy, etc., right? Is that enough for us to just verify those fundamentals to be able to say, okay, I'm verifying the truth of this. This is the truth of it. And now I can trust it.
Sure, I would agree. I think that if we're looking at it from that perspective, I think verification and cryptographic lock is the only real truth I think that surfaces when it comes to using AI. It doesn't mean it doesn't take away from, let's say, if you ask a model, let's say a language model, what are the structures of clouds, say cumulus, cirrus, stratus. That's truth. That's something that's understood.
Yeah.
But to the nature, to the model layer, we're saying that this model, the level of truth that it can provide is based on a percentage level based on what's been vetted through eval and through various other different tests and initiatives. And then you fortify that with locking that in and setting that as the benchmark standard for what we see next, like SWE bench and, humanities last exam, Amy. And so I see that. I see the trust layer coming in that regard, and the verification layer as a marriage pairing. Let's look at it and from this perspective, though.
Okay.
Here we are. We can prompt worlds. We can bring them into existence with an image. Massive visual constructs. But we also know that we're dealing with human eye resolution now, integrated into an environment.
True. Yeah.
How do I know what I'm looking at in the immersion is real and not real? And how do I incorporate the trust layer on the lens level to discern? And how do I teach an agent to be able to detect what's real and what's not real? Is it on the poly level? Is it on the granular level? It seems to me it is.
I agree. I think that is a lot more challenging. I think, you know, you could potentially have like a co-pilot, right, that goes around with you and on a continuous basis, you know, is automatically able to analyze it and be able to verify things on a continuous basis. But I also think we could have other fundamentals in place, like how I was saying about verification ID for agentics, right? The fact that you can have that within your glasses and it automatically identifies itself, saying that, especially if it's on like a 2D context, right? If you're wearing the glasses and it's on a 2D sort of level, then sure, right? That's one great simple way to be able to do it. But if you're looking at more further than that, like, for example, am I speaking to the real Christopher in the glasses? Then that's when it kind of gets a bit more difficulty. And that's why you have to have a continuous analysis being able to be done on that on a continuous basis and verifying on the go, which is why I think verification and verifiable agents are going to be important to this as well.
Yeah, it's on the sci-fi level, isn't it? I mean, you look at Inception, these virtual layers. You look at the dream state layer. You look at, if you will, in taking consideration of the Matrix. You know, there's many incredible novels and films that's been featured based on these instances where I'm here and I'm subject to a reality unknown, and I do not know if it's artificial or real. It's tangible, but to the essence of it, it's truly intangible. And the virtual layer, I think that Iris was speaking to that when it comes to design, that there's such a manipulative factor that could be embedded and couched into these virtual experiences, where I think that verification and trust is no longer an option, and it's vastly underserved.
100% agree. I really do. And, you know, if we're thinking about the combination of AI and XR coming together, when we're talking about NPCs within different contexts, when we're talking about AI avatar buddies, when we're talking about multiple other sectors or whatever within the glasses, there's so many I would say aspects to it that, you know, it can't be a one size fit all. I think there's going to be multiple different versions of the verification and trust side to be able to say, okay, this is trustworthy or whatever. So to your point, Christopher, I agree that there's more to it. And, you know, I think this is not just going to be a one and done thing. I think this is mostly going to be the entire lifetime of AI thing. So
sure, we have in this global AI arms race, we're building out models. There's over 1,800,000, close to almost 2 million plus models in the world. You and I know because we study these.
I think there's more than that now. I think it's like 2.3, 2.4, something like that.
Yeah, I think in terms of the ones that are documented versus the ones unknown, I would almost even say maybe there's more.
Yeah, true.
Non-labeled. I mean,
it could be 10 million for all we know.
We don't know what people are building in their parents' basement, right, or in their laboratories and campuses. I mean, it's all undocumented, so much of it, which is really cool, but really frightening at the same time, because if you look at the Anthropic leak that just happened, and, you know, that harness, you know, enabled to take that stack, and now you have the power of Claude Code, if you will, in the hands of users, and they have forked it several, you know, tens of thousands of times over. It's like now you have the ability, so long as you have a compute and you rack it up with GPUs and all that. But anyway, so Russell, give me your closing thoughts. I really want to lean into the closing thought from you when it comes to this intersection of AI and XR. And I really want to end it in this way. With you, what is the threat level? If we don't do anything about this, if we continue to move it, let's just say we continue to move at this trajectory that we're on right now, what is the threat level?
It's high. It really is high. And I think the most scariest bit is when we're talking about AGI, ASI, autonomous agents, etc. And then when we're talking about combining that with virtual reality, basically in a nutshell, like those two worlds coming together is a whole different story. This is not just, you know, a world model that you're using anymore where you go into the, let's say, Fifi Lee's, you know, virtual world, for example. You know, when you're combining that on top of prompting just a world, but then also combining that with all the AI coming into that too. We're talking about different multi-agents, when we're talking about just fully autonomous systems in general. I think that's mostly the most scariest part for a lot of people, because they don't know what these AIs are thinking. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how they're acting. They don't know what they're behaving, etc. And I think anything can happen within these virtual worlds that people would get scared, or even potentially try it and then go, whoa, and then like me, for example, when I tried it a couple of years back, I felt sick after 5 minutes and I was like, I don't want to do that again. So the existential threat of this is so high that we need to do something now rather than later.
Do you consider it an emergency?
If you asked me last year, I would say no. If you ask me now, yes.
I would agree, Russell. I would agree. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
As quick as it comes, as quick as it goes. And we've now arrived to the end. A season of summits here in the Western Spring. Can I trust AI? No. Can I trust information about AI that's verified? Yes. Can I trust the visualization of XR? No. Can I trust verified visualization of XR? Yes. What happens when I find myself in a virtual layer in existence where who I'm looking at looks as real as you? They look as real as your partner, your spouse, your children, your parents, your friends, a stranger. And you cannot tell the difference whether it's human or whether it's real. What are we equipped with now? Now that these very extraordinarily powerful diffusion models and world models are surfacing, what do we have to protect us in the day into the night? What do we have to bring with us into these virtual installations of hyper-realistic, immersive simulations? How will we know? And who will teach the uninformed? And what happens when the technology becomes more advanced than the technologist? This is a different time. This is a powerful time. And as Russell just expressed, this is an emergency. We've never been in the history of time in this most important time of technical innovation scale as we are facing now. These tools are incredible. These tools are amazing. These platforms and protocols are so fun to use, but they are so dangerous at the self-same time. When all the godfathers and godmothers, if you will, of AI do not see eye to eye and do not agree on the most important things of technology as to whether we're in existential crisis or not. When one says we are in an existential crisis and the other one says we are absolutely not in an existential crisis, who's right and who's wrong? And do we have enough time to determine that? Because when it comes to the answer, I don't believe we'll have time to walk that out, walk that back. And some things cannot be made right again, and some things cannot be whole. I'm appealing to you, the strangers that are GatherVerse.live and our many various social streams. I'm appealing to your advocacy, to your ethical heart. Are you with me? Can you hear me? Are you listening? We have the smallest window of time. I'm appealing to the technologists that are in this community, that are out there in the world, transmetropolitan, transcontinental, to become educators. I'm appealing to you that you don't chase the unicorn. I'm appealing for you to teach our elders, teach our younger, teach yourselves, teach your families, strangers, community. I'm appealing that you share what you heard this week at GatherVerse with others. I'm appealing that you tell a friend about GatherVerse, not for the sake of advertisement and meaningless promotion. We could care less. We're a free and organic-based platform. What we do care about is human betterment, integrity, care, compassion, equality, community development, safety, privacy, wellness, well-being, flourishing, all of these things and more. We must get past the days of the framework. The framework, in many ways, is dead without action. It is time to form a global cloud consensus and to be able to move faster than the hyperscale of empirical observation of technological progress. And if we do not teach the world where we find ourselves today in technical innovation, then something else will. This is our 43rd Global GatherVerse event. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your compassion. We appreciate your camaraderie. And we appreciate your global community. And for this series of GatherVerse AI XR for Humanity Summit 2026, our gather was well. And upon the opportunity for us to be able to meet again, to be able to take on the challenges of this extraordinary time with courage, conviction, and an appeal to the human heart. When we meet again, may our gather be well.
Touched the walls of the city streets and didn't explain, sadly showed us our ways. I've never asked him why. Cast down, it was heaven sent, and to the church, no intent to repent. On my knees, just to cry. Until you travel to that place you can the last pain is gone and all that's left is black. Gray nights he's coming to me, and someday they'll punish my deeds and they'll find all the crimes. But then they ask when they're gonna see them. Then they're gonna ask to feel the ghosts, the walls, the dreams. Well, I've got mine. At last, those coming came, and they never looked back. With blinding stars in their eyes, but all they saw was black. Fooled them, hoping to seem like a slayer of evil, but the pride of greed and you.